Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the L1 show. Today is May 2nd, and we're doing government and security stories to share with your friends.
Let's start with perhaps we'll start with government, and perhaps the worst kind of government story, in my opinion, is the zombie bill. The things we hate.
They resurrect.
We rail against it. It's a big news cycle, and everybody's like, oh, God, well, we've defeated it. But it's never really defeated, is it?
Engadget's headline is, the Earn It Act will be introduced to Congress for the third time. This is the one that tries to protect kids online by making it so that everything is searched all the time.
And they say that the major target of this bill is people who are going after children. But I would say that encryption...
Yeah.
The close number 2, if not tied for first.
Probably number 1 the whole time.
Yeah. So the argument is, now that all of the big services are doing encryption, end-to-end encryption, they're saying, no, we can't do that because there might be bad things in there. Same old argument.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
But maybe this time we'll get it through.
Also, how do we enforce it? Never really been described.
Oh, but it sounds so good when you see it on the election thing.
Yeah, it's going to be the thin end of a wedge to do bad things.
And one of the things that government does to push through this awful legislation is to prey on our fears. In this case, I'm a little afraid. Aren't you guys? I don't know if I trust them to deal with this, but this does seem like it is going to be a problem in society.
U.S. policing AI at companies to make sure it doesn't violate civil rights. So this was a thing that came out that literally just said, hey, if you violate somebody's civil rights as a company, you're not going to be able to blame the AI, which is weird because usually they do get away with that when it's not AI. Remember the whole Equifax breach? And it was like, oh, somebody broke in, even though we had paper thin security.
This just tells me OpenAI has not bribed enough people yet.
We're paywalled on Reuters. I can't remember if this was FTC or FCC, but part of the Rosenworcel duo, one of them is going after this. I'm sure the other one supports it. And AI, obviously, it's scary, but the government sees it and they say, oh, what scarier things could we do to that? How could we trample on our citizens more with that?
DHS task force will examine how to use AI to protect homeland security. Now, it's not in this article. Did you have the article that has the screenshots from the battlefield thing where it was like, would you like to deploy drones? And it's like, I can deploy drones in this configuration or this configuration. It was like ChatGPT for battlefield management.
I think there was a different article.
You're talking about Palantir.
Yeah.
No, this...
Do we have?
They all kind of tie together.
Luckily, Palantir is not part of the Homeland Security. I mean, I'm sure they contract them.
Well, I guarantee you, if DHS is looking at AI to protect Homeland Security, they're looking at the demo Palantir did because oh boy, it was kind of like that's interesting. Pretty sure I saw a Black Mirror episode about this.
So obviously the reporters were like, well, what exactly are you going to do with this? They only gave 2 examples. One was fentanyl precursors. They believe that AI could look at all the different shipments and somehow identify trends to note what might be fentanyl precursor. And also somehow they wanted to identify products that were created by slave labor. I'm not sure how AI would determine that, but they think it can.
Wouldn't it be funny if it flagged stuff that was like, it was just really poor conditions, like Walmart or Amazon?
Apple?
Yeah.
I mean, Apple has been busted a few times. It's down the supply chain. There's some deniability, but there were slaves. And here's a little bit of good news, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't find a barb in this one. Did you see anything? Seems like this is, once again, California at the forefront, and hopefully everybody will adopt this.
Delete Act seeks to give Californians more power to block data tracking. I think this is one the ad agencies are secretly hoping for, too, so they'll have something to do.
Oh, I thought you would be like, if you were an ad agency, you'd be upset, but at the same time, it's like, well, it is work.
So this gives you the option to see what is being used to determine your ad profile. And if you want, purge it. You probably have to do it for every individual service, though. What a task that will be.
Yeah.
If this passes and that becomes a thing, I would encourage some of you open source software people who want a fun project, make a unified destination where you can clear everything all at once.
I have a feeling it's going to be fill out a form and then somebody will get back to you and they'll just try to.
We can't automate that part of the process. We'll use AI for everything else, but not that.
I imagine the do not pay people will probably be quick to jump on that. They do a lot of that kind of stuff. We have a bundle of Supreme Court stories. The first one, of course, has to do with AI.
The U.S. Supreme Court rejects computer scientists' lawsuit over AI-generated inventions. That will let stand the lower court's ruling that AI-generated inventions are not eligible for a lot of protections.
He invented something with AI, wanted the AI to be the owner. Ultimately, they've said no. And he also is suing separately for music created by AI. He wants to copyright it.
I mean, okay, blah, 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 ha, ha, ha. But, we have this idea of corporate personhood in America, and it is sort of interesting that a corporation can be a person, but not an AI. Like, it's when you dig into it, it's like, there's not a lot of distinction between those two in the modern world.
Did you see Grimes tweeted about this kind of thing too?
Oh, we've got a story in nonsense.
Did we include a story? Oh, is it nonsense? Okay. I didn't know if we'd put it. I didn't see it in the AI section. All right, never mind. That's a teaser.
It's amazing, though. She's doing it brilliantly.
No, she's not. She's a moron. I love her music, but...
Well, I mean, come on. We already knew she was a moron. But I imagine soon that I think Japan will probably do it first because they love this kind of thing. Every major corporation will have an AI avatar.
Yeah.
That you can interact with.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another, man. We're just leading right into all our AI stories for the next episode.
Jeeves, time to shine.
I guess will that be Friday episode? I guess we'll see how the stories shake out.
But I bet Level 1 could afford the rights to Ask Jeeves. Oh, we should do that.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like now that we've mentioned that we're interested, they're going to jack up the price.
Okay, Krista, have you got enough time to design a whole thing for around the ... search engine? It's like your search engine is
it sends your search results to a dot matrix printer.
No, it's an AI living in a dot matrix printer searching for your stuff. But it's been around. It's seen some shit.
You know those games like Inscription and Undertale and stuff like that, where it's like meta and you slowly learn that there's something bad going on. It'd be great if Jeeves was put through that.
Yeah.
You'd start interacting with him and there's little graphical glitches. He starts saying really dark stuff. That's kind of where AI goes naturally.
Yeah.
And we had the big argument about whether or not you can block public figures, or if public figures can block you on social media, because they are public figures and they should have to listen to you because they work for you in a long time ago world that we've left,
Do they
buried in the dirt.
Do they?
Trump was the big one. It turned out the Trump case was thrown out because he was no longer president. It didn't matter anymore. Recently, we had the AOC one, and I think they let her ban, right? Or did they not?
Was he her constituent? I think that was the big.
Like, right. He wasn't
linchpin.
a resident of New York, so they were sort of waffling on that. But now it's going to be the final decision.
The U.S. Supreme Court to decide if public officials can block critics on social media.
I feel like it's so weird because you could see a world where you're a politician, you get a social media account trying to connect with people that you're supposed to be representing. But then what if someone just writes a bot that just constantly tweets you horrible things about yourself all the time?
You can mute them, but you couldn't block them.
Yeah.
Like you can mute them so that you don't have to see their thing, but if you block them, they can't see what you're saying, which is the problem.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe that's a fine workaround.
It's definitely a case that will happen, but I think more often it would be that I just don't want to hear any dissent.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, our government does not like hearing dissent. We've got a lot of evidence of that. And I think here's a case where it's not the intention here, obviously, but do they use the exact same graphic? Oh, no, they made different ones.
Yeah, so daffodils, that's a beautiful spring shot.
But this one, I fear, could be used to quash a little dissent.
YouTube, its cases, Supreme Court could shape protections for ChatGPT and AI. This is the one that we've covered before where somebody saw radicalizing content on YouTube that was promoted by the algorithm. It's like, is Google responsible for that? They say Section 230 ultimately was user uploaded content, it wasn't us, but their algorithm promoted it. So it's kind of like, And so this is saying, hey, depending on how this case goes, because ChatGPT is AI, that could have implications for other stuff. And the Supreme Court justices are probably so out of the loop on everything AI that they couldn't get copyright stuff correct. With the whole Oracle versus Google thing, that was bad. That was really bad. The legal takes on that, very bad.
They might be a little out of touch. they might not be the best group of people to be talking about technology, which is terrifying because we've just shown you 4 examples where they were like major decisions. And we've also had some controversies from the court. Now, the first round of these controversies about like being taken to dinner or being taken on vacation or whatever, it's like, well, I'm sure that happens in government every day.
Yeah.
The newest reveal, though, was that these people had been buying his homes.
Right. And they didn't disclose it anywhere.
It was basically Clarence Thomas house flipper. And he always made a tidy profit. That one's a little more worrying, but the Supreme Court says, don't worry.
Supreme Court on ethics issues. Well, not broken. We've investigated ourselves, and we're finding that nothing is wrong. Yeah.
I can't believe they say stuff like this and don't think that anything will happen.
Yeah. Well, one of them had one of these shady real estate transactions, and they actually did disclose it. But Thomas had some, and he didn't disclose it. But his mom still lives there, and he has power of attorney over his mom. But technically, it was a real estate transaction for his mom, which wouldn't be required to be disclosed, but because he has power of attorney and he's the one that arranged it, yeah, he probably should have disclosed that.
Yeah.
Well, the correct answer here is, all right, this is a gray area. We didn't violate any rules technically, but we understand the concern. So from now on, we'll make some rules that make sure we don't repeat this.
That's not what they said.
No,
Not even a little. No, they were like, everything's fine. Stop paying attention to us, peons.
And yeah, in fact, they seemed, a little annoyed that we were impetulant with even the insinuation.
Why are you angry that I have multiple homes? Just buy more, peasants.
Why are you angry that a public servant has millions and millions of dollars in real estate?
Just have more money.
And the Commerce Department, we seem to be giving them a lot more power these days, don't we?
This is the thing that I said they should do a couple of weeks ago.
Well, they did. Congratulations.
Commerce Department outlines plans to fund cutting-edge chip research. And this is not big company research. This is little company research, startup companies, and other things like that. We might be able to finally get JLCPCB as a thing available here in the U.S. to entrepreneurs. Although this isn't really talking about that exactly, but it's saying, we want to avoid the situation where we give college professors money and they don't do anything with it. But we also want to avoid the situation where we give companies like Intel all the money and they ultimately use it for stock buybacks and other stuff. Is there a middle ground here? And this is a lot of words to say and describe that.
This was a fraction of the CHIPS Act, though, right?
Yes,
it like 10 billion or something like that.
Yeah, it's not a lot of money.
But you could probably make that go. I mean, $10 billion would go a long way in academic research.
It's not a lot of money in comparison to the rest of the money, but it is still a lot of money.
Well, they are talking specifically about how one of their examples seemed to be the whole, like, AMD bought a company in California that was like 3 or 4 dudes that designed a chip, and they were planning to have it fabricated somewhere else. And they came up with something really amazing for their design, and then AMD just gobbled them up. And it's like, that's a kind of good innovation we want to encourage. How do we do that again? Let's provide money to do that to smart people. Might work.
Well, remember the 5G saga? It was so exhausting. And there's bad news. But it's even worse than this, actually, because not only is 6 coming, 5.5 is coming.
6G is coming sooner than you think, FCC Chief Rosenworcel says. I would add the subheading that, and AT&T is definitely going to add to the confusion by labeling all their old crappy 4G stuff 5G.
Or 5.5.
This feels like a threat, the headline, the way they wrote it. It's coming for you.
So what she wants is, because remember the spectrum was the big debate.
Yeah.
So she wants to earmark the spectrum now before we ever even need to argue about it and decide a lot of the things that we didn't decide about 5G before the fact.
Well,
Not a bad idea.
Just to recap, there are 3 spectrum bands in 5G: short range, long range, and medium range. And the medium range is still kind of a dumpster fire. We've mostly got short range figured out in cities. Long range is a medium temperature dumpster fire. It's not great, but it's not broken. The long range, but the medium range is actually like legit. I don't know if we'll ever see it work properly. 5.5 would be if we figure out all 3 of those and have some reasonable standard that's generally available in our phones. And that might not happen before we have 6G.
And the Coinbase saga continues. Coinbase claims that they're being unjustly attacked by the government because they are not ever given rules on what they should be doing. What's a security? What's not? What do we need to pay? What do we need to track? They say that the government just won't tell them. The government says that's nonsense, but Coinbase is very serious about it.
Coinbase sues the SEC for answer on rule to specific digital assets. This is actually, so the text here is very, very good. Coinbase is doing a lot of posturing, I guess is probably the right way to describe it, so that they'll have an affirmative defense in the future, because I think they have done things in the past that the SEC is now saying other companies had done maliciously. And so Coinbase is asking, hey, if we do this, isn't this considered this way? And the SEC is basically saying, we're not interested in you right now. And it's like, but if we ever cross you, you're going to take this out of context and say that we were doing this for nefarious purposes when this was just, innocent, normal Wall Street skullduggery. And so this is going to be a really interesting defense exhibit for a decade to come.
Last week we learned that they had signaled that they'd be willing to leave the United States. And I think they started working on incorporation somewhere else. So I guess this is sort of like, well, I'm going to give you one last chance.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense, though, because the SEC has not... They have been kind of ambiguous. I mean...
But that's the power, right?
Yeah. It's like, don't make us come in there. It's like, what are you going to do? It's the threat that's more serious than the reality.
It's the implication.
Yeah. It's like, we'll fine you $2 million. And it's like, well, we're just going to keep doing that illegal thing. That's not worth our time to change what we're doing.
Now, let me just pose this to you. I realize this could lead to some problems, obviously. But if a government works for the people and they have a copyright, shouldn't all the people be able to enjoy that copyright?
You would think.
Why would the government have a monopoly on it when technically we paid for it?
Saskatchewan government issues a warning to those who use government logo in satirical social media posts. I love this. Growth for everybody except.
And it's not even like the Saskatchewan government logo. It's this stupid like Build Back
social
Better.
media.
Yeah, this program they came up with. And it's obvious parody. Obvious parody. I don't know if Canada has parody laws. I imagine they do.
Oh, yeah.
They
probably.
should. It's like, we will have none of this bad attitude, young man. It's how this reads.
How dare you call out our stupidity? And here's a crazy story. This might sound like a win from the headline, but it's not, because it's been going on for such a long time, and this guy's not really going to be able to enjoy this.
Man battling Google wins $500,000 for search result links calling him a pedophile. And when you dig into this, it's, oh, good Lord, your legal bill really is $500,000 because he's had to have a team of lawyers fighting Google's team of lawyers because they won't fix it.
Also, he's proven damages.
Yeah.
He's proven a lot of damages because someone accused him of that on a website with no grounds, and he was in real estate, so people would Google him, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, am I going to invest in this? Better Google it. And they'd be like, whoa.
I don't want to.
Don't want to be a part of that. He is now in his 70s, and he's just getting this. And he wanted $6 million, but they said that he couldn't prove a lot of the stuff. He could only prove the damages of $500,000.
Yeah, his livelihood suffered greatly, but...
And he's no longer in his earning years.
Yeah.
So he can't go back and make anything up. And this was a bit of a shocker, huh?
Yeah.
I thought for sure enough pockets would get lined, but apparently they did not.
Microsoft Activision deal prevented to protect innovation and choice in cloud gaming. The Country Music Awards has prevented Microsoft from... What?
Wow, that's incredibly progressive.
No,
That's overstep.
This is in the UK.
Competition and Markets Authority.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and Microsoft spokesperson sort of angrily said, "Or our confidence in the UK, they've been shaken." Oh yeah, Microsoft hits back at UK after Activision acquisition blocked.
That feels like a toddler on a playground being like, I didn't want to play with your stupid toy anyway.
It sounded like Microsoft was going to try to go ahead, but then in subsequent press releases after that, Microsoft's like, maybe we should put this on hold.
But also, I think he was sort of hinting that maybe we don't do business in the UK anymore.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
a little bit of a punishment. He I can't speak today. Specifically said, I'm not confident about the things that we have in the UK. Maybe we just nudge those over to the EU.
Yeah.
Do you think the EU will allow that acquisition?
Yeah, they're working on Germany.
They probably will, yeah. They'd love to have those data centers and all that taxing.
UK is afraid of making any decisions at this point after Brexit. And who would blame them?
But that's not the only thing that the UK has done to threaten and anger the big tech companies this week.
Major tech firms face hefty fines under new digital consumer bill. Could be up to 10% of their revenue. But there's a lot of stuff in here that these companies, the way that they operate today, are not going to be able to operate this way under that kind of a climate. They just wouldn't be able to because they're going to be in violation of this.
Because it's competition, and we all know that they behave anti-competitively.
Yeah.
It's been proven so many times.
We have a story about that like every week.
It's like they don't have to have the best product. See also Android. Not that iOS is any better, but things have consolidated to the point where it's like if there was someone like Linus Torvalds today that was like, hey, you can load your hobby operating system on your phone and it's going to be great. They're going to have a really tough battle beyond just the technology part of it. See also PinePhone.
Everybody wants control, and the EU wants control of big tech companies. I give them a little bit of props here that they are specifically naming names. There's probably some, subsection that says they can add and remove from this list at their whim. But for now, they're telling us exactly who they're going after.
EU names 19 large tech platforms that must follow Europe's new internet rules.
It's mostly Google.
Yeah, as you can see from the image in this article.
Oh, I thought they gave us a bulleted list. But yeah, they point out that
there's not a bulleted list, but there's a quote down there.
I think 9 of them are Google products. YouTube, Google Search, Google Play, Maps, Shopping, Facebook, Instagram, Amazon, Apple, Bing, TikTok, Twitter.
And Wikipedia.
You think DuckDuckGo is kind of upset?
Seething right now. Coping
We need
and
to
seething.
be controlled too.
Well, like the context of the Wikipedia inclusion is if somebody has a factually inaccurate article about you on Wikipedia, you can get that fixed, which, compared to what that guy went through with Google, they got that $500,000 settlement. Don't think it would be a huge deal to get that fixed on Wikipedia.
People will just fix things on Wikipedia because they want to, for free.
Yeah. Or, they'll troll you endlessly.
To manipulate the narrative. We see a lot of that. And we also see a lot of lawsuits that are sort of just never-ending battles, right? We go on, we got the Qualcomm, we got Google and Sonos, we got IBM, Oracle. It's all just, it never ends. And the EU is trying to find a way to arbitrate all of that. I don't know if it's the best to let the government decide, but that's what they want to do.
The Reuters headline is the EU sets out patent rules for smart technology to limit lawsuits. So this is kind of an EU equivalent of the FRAND stuff. So if Qualcomm comes up with a new cellular radio and everybody's going to use it because everybody says it's really good, are there rules that let Qualcomm have the monopoly, but have the monopoly in kind of a controlled way so they don't become richer than beyond the dreams of avarice? Because we see how Apple and other companies act when they are in that position.
Now, the scary part about this, though, is that in an emergency, and let's remember that the national emergency for 9/11 is still a national emergency. They don't go away once we did get the pandemic one finally lifted, but I think that was a political move. But in an emergency situation, the government could dictate that, like, nah, you know what? We really need this product, so we're going to just suspend payments on this patent. You have to make this.
It's weird how we didn't do that with medical patents.
I think they have more power.
Oh, I've made myself
strange.
sad.
Or like insulin. It's like we can make insulin for like 20 cents. Why aren't we doing that? A lot of people probably wouldn't die.
And Bulgaria has a terrible, terrible law coming up here. But when you read the story, you find out that it's not really Bulgaria making this law.
Yeah.
There's a red, white, and blue barrel of a gun right up to their temple while they're announcing this law.
Bulgaria approves draft law that turns pirate site operators into criminals.
Knock, knock. It's the United States.
Yeah.
Democracy coming.
My favorite quote from one of these disillusioned people is it was something along the lines of, copyright violation is just as important as like poisoning a municipal water supply. And it's like,
Is it? I don't need copyright protections to live.
Seems unlikely.
remember in the 70s when they said that copyright violations were a tort and it was not really criminal activity? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
The other terrifying thing here is that Bulgaria never said no to any of these measures. They agreed to them. The problem was, according to the copyright regime, mostly here in America, they didn't enforce it enough. Their numbers weren't good enough. They're like, you're not trying hard enough to crack down on copyright infringement. And we can tell because you're not reporting enough numbers. Those are rookie numbers. You got to get them up.
It's like literally everybody is a felon from just copyright violations.
Yeah, that's sort of unspoken, right? Like, we know you're not enforcing enough because the way that we have set up these laws, everybody's in violation. So how are you not getting more people in here, huh? It's easy.
It's so easy. Why aren't you just doing it?
And I imagine the copyright situation will get so much worse once we have digital currencies. Because anything that you do toward buying a product that they don't like that might bypass the copyright, well, that's going to be immediately reported. And always at the forefront of that, the vanguard in the digital currency fight is China.
China makes major push in its ambitious digital yuan project.
It's interesting that they introduced the digital yuan like how long? A couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
And they've done all sorts of programs to try to force people to get it. They've given away free digital currency. They've just showered the people with it.
The new designer baby IVF thing that we're going to talk about later, probably.
But people don't want it. The people of China know what their government is like. And they're like, well, we got the WePay. We really like that. So we don't really care about your thing.
Is Jack Ma okay? Where's he at? Is he?
He's probably fine.
Please make sure he's okay.
And if you are an American, this should terrify you, because the thing that's probably saving us right now from, becoming a horrible third world country is our reserve currency status. And we have really, really done nasty things to all the rest of the world economically as a bully with that. But what if that were to go away?
Yuan overtakes the dollar to become the most used currency in China's cross-border transactions. It's probably not just the oil transactions, but yeah.
Now, globally, it's like 8% versus 80-something%. America's still number one in a big way. But every percent we lose hurts us.
Oh boy. And, if the Congressgooders don't understand code and the Supreme Court don't understand that, they definitely understand that with the reserve currency.
That makes a lot of sense.
Like, usually this program it's like, all these people don't understand this, and they're piloting the ship, and it's just like, I've never heard of an ion storm. What's that? Full speed ahead. Like,
although, I don't know. You think, they're intelligent people, right? For the most part. Do you think they understand that a debt-based world is inevitably going to fall apart?
No,
I don't think anyone who's up at that upper echelon understands that.
Yeah, I think that it's been a debt-based world for so long that counts on inflation moving at a certain speed that they don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Clarence Thomas was alive during a world where it was better, at least.
Yeah.
He's seen it degrade. Does he think it's a good thing?
Yeah,
It certainly enriched him.
Yeah, if you're getting rich, who cares, right? Like, the system works for me.
He probably thinks the other team is at fault, and he's done all he can.
And maybe all that will be moot, because when we go to war with China, that's definitely, the big reserve currency change that put us in charge was because of a world war. So it tends to reshuffle at the end based on who wins. And China is clearly preparing.
China building cyberweapons to hijack enemy satellites, says U.S. leak. Yeah, look at how effective just a humble tool like Discord is in control of the battlefield.
I was just going to say the balloons, but
now, this is
the
not
balloons just faded from memory, didn't they? Like, that feels like a lifetime
it's
ago.
crazy. And we learned that there were more balloons from the Teixeira leak. And it's like, we don't want to talk about that. Why would we discuss these amazing leaks?
That's old news.
But remember the Russian satellite that was like the hug of death, where it would come and latch onto them and drag them into a fiery grave? This is actually, they believe, going to be more of signal-based jamming.
Mm.
It really is like in the True to Life Space Force Netflix series with
So the sirens are really just going crazy right now. I don't know if they can hear that.
Probably faintly. I can't remember the John Malkovich. There we go. The bad of his name.
Wait, what did John? Is he in that show?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that any good?
It's pretty funny.
Check that out. And when it comes to, getting down to the bedrock truth, finding out, cutting through all the BS, we all know that the major news corporations ain't going to do it for us, right? But where you might want to go is Minecraft Discord servers.
Obviously.
And more than we ever knew.
U.S. airmen shared sensitive intelligence widely for longer than previously known. Now, this story actually has a really tenuous connection back to our first story, the whole child protection online thing. Here's the roadmap for how they're going to force this through. MD5 sums, or mathematical hashes. The government and other people are going to give Google and Apple and other companies, here's a list of hashes. We want to know where these hashes show up. And some of it is going to be for like the really legit bad stuff, but almost all of it is going to be not that. It's going to be stuff like this. So that if somebody leaks this version of a Word document or somebody leaks this version of whatever, that an alarm will go off and they'll show up, because that's the only way that you know. Unless Discord is scanning documents constantly, they're not looking for keywords, they're looking for hash matches. And so it's like, do you have this document on this thing? Yes. And more importantly, if technology can be backdoored for that in general, like suppose you have a router or something that is scanning all of the traffic passing through it, and you sell it to some foreign adversary, and the little dinger goes off to say, hey, a file just passed through me that matched a hash that was one of the hashes that you want to know, then we know that they know that they've got our stuff.
They know that we know that I know.
Well, they don't
know.
They don't necessarily know that we know that they know, but it's an easy, it's a very low overhead way to figure that out. And that's how they're going to push this through, is that hash matching thing, because it opens up a whole world of possibilities for tracking that we don't have right now.
Now, this guy, he took pictures of everything. So
Yeah.
if they tried to use their MD5s from their actual documents, it wouldn't have worked. But
Right.
after his leak, they could identify that. So the pro leaker tip, you have to take a new picture every time.
Oh,
Well-
that's so annoying.
It's funny that you say that, because like the microdots with a printer, if you've never heard of printer microdots, go Google that. And then sorry about keeping you awake all night, but that will be embedded in camera software as well. So that when you take a picture, there's a few pixels that are out a little bit. And it's like, where did this come from? It's like, yes, this came from a Galaxy S10 from manufactured here that was issued this. And here's the serial number. Because guess what? The printer puts the microdots in the thing. That's how they caught Manning.
So you're going to need a dark room and
Lots of noise.
film equipment. So you're going to have to develop a new picture every time.
Two photocopies.
Scan that with a different scanner every time.
The scanners have it too for currency protection. Just try to, just bring a dollar bill into Photoshop and see what happens and be horrified.
Well, last week we talked about the CAN bus attack against your car. If a thief can get to the CAN network anywhere on your car, they can now attack it and start it and take over and unlock the doors and so forth. It's horrible. Now, what we learned from the Kia boys is that these are not technically sophisticated attackers. They would not be able to figure this out. But luckily, they don't have to, because there's a new product for sale on eBay.
Car thieves are using tech disguised inside old Nokia phones and Bluetooth speakers.
What's the keyword you put into eBay to get one of these?
So there's a video here of this guy's showing off exactly how this works. And yeah, it looks like a Nokia phone. It's not. It's got a little menu in there. And once you are connected up to the car, you just press a button and boom, you're in. You have control.
And you can play Snake. It's really the ultimate
I know.
device.
I think the old operating system is gone at that point.
No, they
So
keep
you
Snake.
might not be able to. If you were stealing a Tesla, maybe you could.
Play Snake on the dash.
And the AI code generation, it's interesting. It's very good at coming up with code that works, but is it good code?
ChatGPT creates mostly insecure code, but won't tell you unless you ask.
So it'll create it and not really warn you. But then if you turn around and you're like, hey, ChatGPT, observe this code and tell me if it's secure, it knows that it's not, and it'll tell you why.
So that sounds like a bug that'll get fixed pretty quick.
Maybe.
Also, they didn't say if they were using ChatGPT 3, 3.5, or 4, because 4 has some stuff like this built into it where it'll take its own response and look at it again for a second and then be like, oh, I shouldn't do that.
Now, if I were this company, I would have tried to set this up, because what a marketing piece, right? We've often talked about when you're looking at a VPN, they'll all promise this, but we've found some that were liars.
Yeah.
But if you look at court cases, some have proven in court that they don't log. This is maybe even better.
Mullvad VPN maker says police tried to raid its offices but couldn't find any user data. So this was in Sweden. They raided their offices in Sweden. It's like, well, they didn't get anything.
Because there wasn't anything. They're like, yeah, we're serious. We do not log. So countdown until Swedish law that says you have to log.
Yeah, I was gonna say this would be great advertising for them, but
What was the email provider that was the same way? Was it LavaBit? And then they were compelled by the court to add stuff to their stuff to log and intercept messages. That's dark. Was it LavaBit? I can't remember who it was.
Coming soon to Sweden. I don't remember either, but I remember that story. And your VPN might not be leaking your information, but your browser is.
Microsoft Edge is leaking the sites you visit to Bing. Of course, this is like follow a creator thing, and the example they use is Hardware Unboxed. And if you follow the creator, it starts sending you URLs you're visiting to Bing for analytics or tracking purposes. Pepperidge Farms remembers that Microsoft was telling you that was why you didn't want to use Google. You should use Bing because we don't do that.
They say it's a
we kind of
mistake.
do.
I don't know if that's really a mistake. Could that be just feeding the AI?
It almost certainly is.
Kind of like how when you just install a fresh Windows copy, it calls 700 advertising services by default, as we've seen on the network.
That would be a good use for it, right? Because it's like, okay, advertising AI. Here's someone who has shown us that they like this.
Mm-hmm. They follow this creator, and this is the niche that they cater to.
And here's all the URLs they like.
Mm-hmm.
So update that meta profile. So when another person likes that thing, we can put those together.
And then sell that information. Yep.
Oh no, a bug. And Google is going for more syncing to the cloud. This is a very sensitive thing to be storing in the cloud.
Without encryption. Google Authenticator can now sync 2FA codes to the cloud. However, they've done it in a very ham-fisted and stupid way, apparently. And you shouldn't use it.
So the idea here is that you might want to two-factor on a different device with the same Google account.
Which is a huge pain, by the way.
That makes sense. A lot of people will do this out of convenience, but probably not safe.
If Google hadn't made it so difficult to do the side loading thing, you could literally plug one phone into the other phone, and it's like, are you sure that you want to jack in your two-factor stuff? And it's like, yes. And then on the other phone, it's like, magical things are happening. Are you really sure you want to do this? Yes. And you could re-enter your security token or password or something, or fingerprint or whatever, and then it transfers it. That would be a secure way to do that. But they've painted themselves into a corner with the whole, oh my God, you got to go through the cloud. So you got to send this two-factor stuff to the cloud, which you don't know what's happening to it after it does that. This is bad. This is idiocy.
My all-time favorite ransomware name by far is Clop.
That's good.
I really like it. We have heard this in the past. Microsoft, all the big cloud companies and everything, they make it super simple to sign up for their online stuff. It's like, self-serve. Just, go in, put your stuff in and do it. And time again, we found people abusing that.
Microsoft confirms PaperCut servers used to deliver LockBit and Clop ransomware. No. Dang it.
Sadhorn.mp3.
We forgot that server was on the internet. Our bad.
You shouldn't trust Microsoft, but in this case, you really shouldn't trust Microsoft.
Remember those stories where it's like, this server's had 3 years of uptime and we can't find it. And it's like, it turns out we drywalled over it. Oops.
It's been serving Clop for the last 6 months. Somebody found it.
Fun times.
All right. Oh, Krista, you didn't tell us anything about your hiking adventure.
I wore my foothills trail.
Do you get that as part of your, you have to buy that? Or
I bought it at the end, yeah.
do you have to pay anything to do this?
No.
Okay.
It's 77 miles. Did it 5 days, 6 nights, I think.
Worth it?
Worth it, 100% worth it. It's in South Carolina if you ever want to hike it. You go outside, you touch grass. You don't hear horrible news about how AI is destroying everything.
Did you encounter any AI in the woods?
No, not a single one, surprisingly.
Crazy.
Didn't even have service for a lot of that trip. So 10 out of 10. Would hike again. All right. That's it. We'll see you guys next time. Bye. Hello, everybody. Today is May 3rd, and we're back with the L1 show. Definitely not news. We're doing business and social stories that you can just share.
Collapse links for you to send to your friends. You might not be the most popular friend.
These are business collapse, though. It's not like ecological collapse, which is more distressing.
We have a lot of folks in our audience in this first company. Pour one out for the homies.
Yeah, it's hitting everybody, not just the big evil tech companies.
Red Hat begins cutting quote unquote hundreds of jobs. Having worked in tech, you do have a significant nest egg saved up, right? Right?
Hopefully.
Right?
Yeah, those statistics about average savings.
Yeah, it's not great.
Not looking good.
Red Hat laying off 4% of their workforce. Some impacted people have already been notified by the time you're watching this, and it's not fabulous.
And here's one that, I mean, I can't believe it took this long. Right? We always talk about how do they have this many jobs? Yeah. How does Lyft have this many jobs compared to Red Hat?
How many drivers are subsidizing this many executives? It makes no sense.
I know, but the drivers don't count here.
I know. No, that's what I'm saying. Is like, how many drivers would there have to be? Even at a 10-to-1 ratio, there's not that many Lyft drivers.
They should be on the phone with like 6 drivers a week, just personally taking care of them, checking on their kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And how they're doing. I don't think that's happening.
Lyft's new CEO begins tenure with layoffs, reportedly cutting 1,200 jobs. If you drive Lyft, let us know if things improve or get worse, because one actual Lyft employee should be servicing on the order of what, like 1,000 to 10,000 Lyft drivers. Like, that ratio is way off.
And here's one that we haven't heard of since it came out. I remember Elon Musk did a live stream on this, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is the next thing." And then no one cared.
Nobody uses Clubhouse anymore.
So this is not surprising.
Audio app Clubhouse lays off half of its employees.
They didn't have a ton. I don't remember what the number was, but half's more exciting than the actual number because they didn't have a bunch. But why would they need a bunch?
They raised around $300 million at a $4 billion valuation, which tells me we're in the wrong business.
Oh, headcount never surpassed 100, so this is less than 50 people.
It's still substantial, though.
50 people worth $2 billion? Something ain't right there.
Well, a company that is worth more than $2 billion and has really, really not done well lately is Intel.
Intel reports its largest quarterly loss in company history, according to CNBC.
133% down from year over year.
They borrowed, what was it? They borrowed like $6 or $8 billion, and they're still down $2 billion.
Now, the good news here is that they had already given guidance for this.
Yeah.
Actually, they did a little bit better than they had given guidance for. So the stock price was not terribly impacted, but you can't argue this is good.
No.
I think that I think this was necessary a long time ago, and I'm glad to see them doing this, because if they don't do this, if they had done this a long time ago, they would be in better shape now. But doing it now is better than doing it 6 months or a year from now, because by then it might have been too late.
You can say that about the entire economic downturn.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have been doing things differently the entire time instead of assuming it's going to be raining money.
Controlled descent as opposed to a crash.
Maybe those zero rates to save all of our crony buddies and corporations had an impact.
It is impressive that took, what, 10 years?
More than 10.
Almost 20.
We started that in like 2009, right?
It's a problem for future me. Screw that guy.
I mean, it is impressive that it worked that long.
And obviously, everybody's hurting. Nobody's buying a new phone. Nobody's buying a new PC because everybody bought them during the bad times. So that impacts everybody down to the bedrock layer.
Samsung faces weakest quarter since 2009 as memory chip market in the worst slump in decades. Also, PSA, you can get that Samsung 980 Pro 2 terabyte for around $100 US.
I'm seeing crazy prices on TVs right now. Have you been seeing that?
Yeah, 50-inch OLED, like $300.
Yeah,
not quite that crazy, but yeah.
I saw a 75-inch for $250. It was probably a garbage display.
Yeah.
I didn't even look into it. I was like, yeah, that can't be good. But still, that's crazy.
The only time that would be a reasonable price is when we get TVs that actually roll up. You just get it as a tube.
Like a poster.
Yeah. I mean,
That'd be convenient.
The technology's coming, and you just print it. But part of the reason that TVs are getting so cheap is those factories that literally do print the panels are finally coming online. So the cost of producing a panel has moved down another order of magnitude.
I'm sure right now it's supply, right?
Well,
who's buying them?
Those are online. Plus, you're trying to clear out your old inventory because it's going to be worthless when the new stuff gets here.
I think right now, probably who's killing it is warehouse space, right?
Yeah.
Got to store everything. And Amazon now, this is not a new layoff from Amazon. We already knew about this one, but had it been announced, now it's happening.
Amazon starts layoffs in HR and cloud units. Read the memos announcing the cuts. Also their health unit.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're giving up on. We got another one about that, right?
Yep.
They're giving. Oh yeah, the whole thing. They're just like, this is done. If you bought these products, sorry. I think if you bought them within, or maybe that was Google, one of these companies was giving you like a 12-month back. You could go back and be like, you sold me a product you knew you were going to abandon. Give me my money back.
Amazon shuts down Halo division and discontinues all devices. Remember when we thought Amazon was going to go for the
health store, and it's like, I'm sorry, you don't have a good enough health rating to buy Oreos.
Well, no, it was like the Mark Cuban Better RX.
Oh, yeah.
They did something like that.
They were going to do telehealth, I thought. They wanted to move into that space.
This was going to drive that strategy, and I guess they found consumers weren't willing to share that data with Amazon because of
every reason imaginable.
Well, I think right now, though, they just don't want to buy the extra stuff, right?
Yeah.
And Meta, this is another situation where they warned us. They warned us what was coming, so it wasn't that much of a shock. The crazy thing here is that he will not back down on Metaverse.
Yeah.
And most of these losses is that they are still pumping money into that just chasm.
Meta's Reality Labs records a 3.99 billion quarterly loss as Zuckerberg pumps more cash into the metaverse. You think he's walking around to everybody's desk in the Reality Lab and it's like, no, I can't this is my team. This is my core team of 2,000 people. We're gonna do this.
Does his legless avatar allow him to walk around the metaverse?
He's hovering
near his employees. Yeah.
Is that the first time that hovering menacingly has been uttered in?
Just over their shoulder.
They are doing some AI stuff. They haven't really announced a lot of details about it, but how are you not taking that whole division and pivoting them into AI at this point?
Well, I guess we have a story later on. He is kind of doing that.
No, but he will not give up on the Reality Labs. And they're the loss leader. If you're a shareholder, that's got to be infuriating. Right?
Yeah.
One of the pivots into AI did not go very well for them. They did like AI chatbots and people were like...
Nobody likes that.
We have a story about that too.
Yeah.
Well, one of the other things that happens when you're this giant tech company is you have to buy up a whole big plot of land and make it your own city, right? But that gets more difficult to do when nobody's buying your crap.
Google's 80-acre San Jose mega campus is on hold as the company reckons with economic slowdown. Hey, can I borrow this until the economy picks back up? This would make a really awesome YouTube lab.
Yeah, they
We have to fly to California, but
they give it to you for, like what, $1 million a month? Plus you have to do the upkeep. You got to cut the grass.
No, I figure if we turn it into, maybe we can do it as like a non-profit or something.
Yeah, they're not into that. They like their profits. And it's Ontario, right? Is it Ontario or Ontario?
Ontario.
Ontario.
I'm 90% sure, but I'm sure someone will tell me.
There's rules in this country about what you can do with public pensions and retirement funds and stuff like that. I guess they don't have that in Canada because who thought this was a good idea?
Ontario Teachers Fund steers clear of crypto after a $95 million FTX loss. Now this is a retirement fund in the billions and billions of dollars, but they did lose 95. There's two questions I have after this. One, they lost $95 million. Okay, whatever. They lost $95 million investing in crypto. Like as Ryan alluded to, there's a lot of questions there. But also the lawyers for FTX and the current CEO, they got $7 billion back. So it's not a total write-off. This article says they're treating it like it's a total write-off. They might be able to get 10 or 15 million back of that 90 million, maybe.
You know what's crazy though is like our rules are that you have to invest in something that's safe. So almost all of our pensions funds invest in bonds, government bonds, and they got crucified with those rates.
It's funny that you say that because Kentucky Teacher Retirement invested in a bunch of stuff that went to zero as soon as the Russia-Ukraine thing happened.
I remember
they
that.
lost a lot of money.
And everyone was like, oh, great.
Well, the Terra Luna whole thing still continues to play out, and the powers that be they're finding more and more people that they want to talk to about that whole situation.
Terra co-founder Daniel Shin charged with fraud in South Korea. Aww. This is evidence that they uncovered. South Koreans have done a really interesting bit of detective work here. There's a lot of incriminating emails. Messages.
Interestingly enough, rather than run from them like Do Kwon did, he actually returned to Korea and was like, yeah, I'm here to do whatever you need. And they're like, yeah, we need you to be arrested.
We've got these emails. And he's like, oh, if I'd known you had those.
I might not have come back and turned myself in.
Oops. It's like, no, this is a big misunderstanding. That wasn't me. I didn't say that. That's crazy.
Was it Marie Antoinette that said, let them eat cake?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is
Well,
definitely the...
some people say that she hasn't, but yes,
Oh,
that
I'm
is it's
sorry.
attributed to her.
I'm sorry, historians. We're not here to debate that. Let's just say that this is the Marie Antoinette moment for the Bank of England.
Britain's quote unquote need to accept their poor, says Bank of England economist. This was so, I think this was something that happened last week. And it happened on, what is this on, like last Friday? Because people were angrily chatting about this. I remember earlier this week.
The story was from Tuesday the 25th. I don't know when he said it. I think it was on like a podcast or something, so it took some time to
circulate.
filter out.
Yeah.
I read one green text rant about this that started with the whole Brexit thing, and it was like, well, I can't even. It's surprisingly coherent for a green text.
Do you think he's taking a pay cut?
No.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does he accept that he's poorer, or
Apparently
is he
not,
just getting
no.
richer?
He was not personally affected. Not really.
They just need to have more money, you know.
I think he said
Stop
something
getting Starbucks.
like some business venture of his was affected, but it's like, what? Not really.
Yeah. Are you having to not buy produce at the grocery store? Because until then,
Yeah.
Now, last week we talked about, Christopher, are you an REI supporter?
I've been in one, but I don't have a membership.
You don't have their, oh, you have to have a membership?
Well, you don't have to, but like you get discounts if you're a member on gear.
You got any of their gear?
No.
Well, the
Cottage vendors, baby.
one in Portland shut down because rampant crime.
Really?
That's interesting. When we talk about that, we get comments, and we get two distinct kind of comments. One of them is, I live in Portland, and you have no idea how bad it is. And then the other kind is, I live in Portland, and you're lying. It's not bad.
Maybe it depends on what part of Portland you're in. It's a big city.
No, well, so the breakdown is I'm not from Portland. It is as bad as they say. And I grew up in Portland. It's fine. And it's like, it's always been like that, huh?
I don't think so. But one of the problems is when the rule of law breaks down like that, and we've seen this in America's past, or, it was like before we had, the West, and we didn't have anything. We didn't have any law. So the people with money took it into their own hands to create their own laws and enforce them. We do not want to go back to that.
No.
Magic the Gathering publisher Wizards of the Coast sent the Pinkertons after a leaker. The Pinkertons, you may remember from the railroad unionization days.
What year is it? Am I in a history book?
They never stopped existing. They do like private security and stuff. So this guy bought, I think I got a picture over here. Oh yeah, the March of the Machine. So this was a new expansion for Magic the Gathering. The problem is it wasn't for sale yet.
They shipped it early.
Oh.
But the guy he bought it from, like he didn't know that he was buying something that's not allowed yet. So he buys it, he's excited, he does a YouTube video about it, and then the Pinkertons show up. I don't understand why he gave it to them. Do you?
Because they forced their way into his house and they were like, we're taking this.
Probably a gun was involved there. I mean, if you could video record that, in theory, you could have something done about it. I don't know if you actually could.
Yeah, well, and the Pinkertons allege that this was stolen, and it's like, was it stolen or was it mistakenly shipped?
Where
But
was this?
here's the
was this in
thing.
Portland? Well, I don't know why you mentioned that, but
Because we're talking about REI. I don't know where it was, but the thing about it is, even if it was stolen, let's say that he went to a store, smashed a window, grabbed it, and took it home. The Pinkertons do not have power.
yeah, right. They're not actual cops.
They don't have authority.
And yet,
I was wondering where it was because I was like, man, imagine if that was like somewhere in Eastern Kentucky and someone tried to force their way into the house. That's a bad time.
They would be dead, but then I'm sure the Pinkertons would escalate that, right?
Right.
I could never picture the company that did what they did to the Dungeons and Dragons intellectual property doing such a thing. Oh no.
Yeah. Who could have expected? They have such bad PR right now. And somebody was like, go get it. Don't come back without those cards.
This is what really strong copyright laws do.
It's okay for you to terrorize our customers and possibly attack someone over $2 worth of cardboard.
Do you think that Thomas Jefferson and George Washington is like, do what now? The kid had stolen playing cards?
What if he studied the blade?
Imagine trying to explain the idea of a playing card to Thomas Jefferson.
Well, they probably played cards, just not that kind.
Well, collectible cards.
Yeah.
It's like but they sent the Pinkertons after somebody with a set of. Were the girls on the cards really pretty? I don't understand.
Well, yes, but that's not the point.
They probably would be blown away by pornography, wouldn't they? Like, let's talk more about this. And another bit of good news. We already knew this was coming, but we weren't sure if the governor was going to sign it. He signed it.
Colorado governor signs tractor right to repair law opposed by John Deere. Manufacturers must provide parts and embedded software and documentation. And this mostly just applies to farm equipment. Doesn't apply to phones yet, but they're working on it.
They give a list of things. There was one line that was like, and other equipment related to farming. So hopefully it won't just be those things, but tractors are the big one, obviously. Some of the language is a little bit weird, like, a reasonable cost. How do you determine a reasonable cost? What's a reasonable cost for your DRM software toolkit for climate change? They could say that's any number, but they have to give it to the farmer or a repair center, and the repair center cannot be forced to join their repair network like Apple.
Good news.
And moving on to hardware, we have a bit of a misstep from AMD, but it looks like they've gotten on top of it.
New BIOS updates keep Ryzen 7000X 3D processors from frying motherboards. Or whatever. We don't know. Gamers Nexus is doing a deep dive on this. They'll probably have that out by the time you're watching this. But yeah, so there was a lot of posts of people posting CPUs. CPUs don't normally fail like this. It's like, oh, it got hot and died. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But look at the CPU. It physically, catastrophically deformed. That's weird. That shouldn't happen.
They're saying there was some issue with the power rails and that BIOS. They found it and they fixed it.
And may or may not be related to the CPU. Der Bauer posted a picture of a non-X3D CPU that had similar discoloration but had not failed.
They were very careful to say, don't stop overclocking. You can still overclock. Go ahead. I don't know if maybe wait a little bit.
Well, that was because Asus initially said, you voided your warranty. Sorry, you're on your own. And then AMD was like, don't be like that. So that was sort of, if you experience that, AMD will replace your stuff, which is a good move.
And we all know that the new hotness is chip fab. If you can be part of the chip fab world, people are just going to throw money at you. And ARM is saying, well, we don't traditionally do this. We just license our work so you can do it. But you know what? It's so popular.
ARM is developing reference chips to attract new customers, according to this report. This
The picture makes me want to eat it.
This might have been what PO'd Apple. You remember the whole Apple thing? It's like, why is Apple?
What do you think it would taste like?
Oh, nothing, but I'm just like, man, that's just like it'd be a nice crunch. It's very small.
Probably have a bitter taste.
Burnt
Yeah.
Oreo.
You've been eating the Dragon Hearts?
We'll see. We'll see if that takes off. But ARM is certainly in a strong position right now. Will they capitalize? Also, you know who else is in a strong position? Probably having a little cake in the conference room this week, right? Is TSI Semiconductors.
Bosch to buy California microchip maker TSI Semiconductor and invest $1.5 billion. This is a good move. This is something that would be good to come out of the CHIPS Act because, remember, Global Foundries was kind of open. They're like, we don't want to chase the 7-nanometer unicorn. It's just too expensive. But the world that we're in economically now is way different than when they were making those comments. And so Bosch is saying, listen, we can make money hand over fist. Let's do this.
Also, these are some of the more utilitarian chips that we need for manufacturing other things. So I bet they're going to get some CHIPS Act money.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is great. The world could use more competition among the voltage regulators and USB controllers. My God, why is the USB controller market such a dumpster? Anyway.
The world also could use better Linux drivers. And there's no better indication than this.
The Intel i219LM had only been running at 60% of maximum speed due to a Linux driver bug. Yeah, your gigabit Ethernet adapters just got a whole lot faster. Oops.
Just got a brand new Linux kernel. When you upgrade, you will get full potential from your Intel.
It's funny because a lot of distros still use kind of old kernels, and this came to light when modern distros are using more recent kernels, and it's like, wait a minute. Why does this kernel have such a much slower network driver? It's like, oh, so we made an oops.
I comboed two stories in here, the Asus item and this new Ayaneo?
I think it's Ioneo.
Ioneo. They're basically the same product, but it's obvious Gaben has taught us there is a deep thirst for this kind of form factor.
The Neo 2S will give the Steam Deck and the Asus ROG Ally some serious competition. Ryzen 7000, the Z1 and the Z1 Extreme. It's the Steam Deck form factor, kind of. There's some knocking on it because it doesn't have this fancy Steam Deck touchpads.
That Nintendo color scheme.
I worry about the fragmentation of controls because the Steam Deck really, I wasn't expecting the Steam Deck controls to be nice because I don't like controller play in general. But the touchpads for the games where I get really frustrated and it's like, but then I get the thumb touchpads, they actually work really well. And the thumb touchpads, they have inertia, which is like, it's hard to describe, but like when you use a touchpad on a laptop and you lift your finger and you go to the other side, it's fine. But if you throw your finger to one side, it's like your cursor has a little bit of mass and it keeps going, and you can get really good at throwing the cursor around on that tiny little touchpad.
Well, one kind of touchpad that you won't be throwing anything around on anymore is the budget basement Microsoft brand.
Microsoft's mice, keyboards, and webcams are being discontinued in favor of Surface accessories. I could go for an Alcantara Bluetooth keyboard. That'd be fine.
In almost every instance, the Surface branded version is twice the cost of the Microsoft branded version.
It feels premium, but it's actually not really.
Guarantee it's the same hardware.
I was about to say, but it's exactly the same, just a different logo on it.
Microsoft did get one thing right. They had this old Bluetooth mouse that was like the size of a billiard ball, and you would kind of hold it sideways, and it was really good.
Better stockpile them because they're done. No more of those.
Also, the Microsoft Natural keyboards, like the USB ones, they are so poorly quality controlled. About 8% of them only operate at above spec USB voltages, which is a problem for the KVMs.
Good riddance.
Yeah.
And we have satellites in the sky monitoring everything that we do, but now perhaps we can use them for more communication, and it seems like the wireless companies are ready to jump in.
AT&T helps complete a first space-based voice calling using standard smartphone. That was supposed to be the pigs in space voice, but I didn't quite nail it.
Meanwhile, AT&T continues to drop out calls on my road in eastern Kentucky.
Well, maybe, Krista, you need to move into the remote Canadian wilderness because they will be the first to enjoy this bounty.
SpaceX Rogers to connect mobile's phones to satellites to remote Canadian areas.
Mobile's phones?
Mobile's phones. It is mobile's phones. I didn't misread that.
That sounds Canadian.
To connect mobile's phones.
I don't think that's
It's a Canadian
I
headline.
don't think Canadians have different grammar.
You will read anything on the teleprompter.
I thought this was going to be like direct phone connection, and it kind of reads like that in one spot, but in another spot, it sounds like they're using the tower. Like the tower connects to the satellite, and the phones still connect to the tower.
I think the AT&T one was direct, though,
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
it? It was they did a call from the U.S. to Japan, and it was purely through the satellite.
This one's ambiguous. It doesn't really exactly say.
But if you're freezing to death somewhere in the Yukon, I imagine that you're going to enjoy
Or
having
if you're
this
off
either
grid
way.
or something, or not even off grid, but maybe just in a remote cabin.
If you're trying to escape the misery of technology,
I mean, a low Earth satellite is closer than you think, a low Earth orbit satellite. So if you have enough of them, then your phone can maintain connection, and that's pretty good.
and you alluded in the last episode to the phone companies calling their service something that it is not.
Often.
And just tricking the consumer into thinking they're getting one thing when in fact they're getting the same exact thing that they already had. It seems that Huawei wants to play that game a little bit.
5.5G park opens, bringing 5.5G to life. Come to the park where we have 5.5G. And it's like, I'm not sure that's why people want to come to the park.
So 5.5G, according to Huawei, is going to be 10 gigabit down and 1 gigabyte up.
Gigabit.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, gigabit. So, I mean, I guess that's good.
You can only get that when you're huddled around the tower in the middle of the park.
Yeah, literally in the confine. You walk outside the park, it's gone.
By the way, the candy bar melting in your pocket, that's normal.
The growth on your neck.
Just don't think about that.
It's non-ionizing radiation, and you know it. It's almost entirely non-ionizing.
The good news is when you do your telehealth appointment, you need to upload pictures of the growth on your neck. It's going to be so lightning fast.
But it makes it grow like 10% larger as you send the
That's the
photos.
price you got to pay. And Motorola, they joined up with Lenovo and they said, we're going to use our powers, combine our powers, and make the ultimate phone. And it's here.
Motorola's first co-branded Lenovo phone is here, and it's nice as heck. Despite the headline, I was reading this thinking it was a budget phone, but maybe not. We'll see.
I noticed with all the phones we were looking at, all the Motorola ones were sold out, I think.
You can't actually buy this one yet. This is only for businesses to buy at this point. It will unlock on April 28th. Oh, you can buy this now.
Hey, because it's May now.
Congratulations.
This reads like AstroTurf.
They might just be.
That's a press release.
Yeah.
We've also got the AstroTurf. I think, is it in nonsense when we talk about Notion, the Notion one? Because that was just AstroTurf.
No, I think that was just an AI story. But yeah, I also thought, I was like, this is PR.
Yeah, no one wrote this.
That's such a bad idea, yeah. Well, Microsoft, they really, really, really want you to go to a subscription model. But those pesky Windows users, they like just getting Windows as a license and not paying monthly. You know, like we've always done. And Microsoft says, how are we going to push people toward that? How about we guilt them about the climate?
Microsoft suggests businesses buy fewer PCs. No, really, that's the register. So this is part of an ad campaign that Microsoft is running saying you can just have a PC in the cloud. You log in when you need it, all your data is there, and it'll run on a potato class thin client. It doesn't matter if you're rocking a machine from 20 years ago. You're just in the cloud. It's fine. It's not fine because the wireless card in that thing is garbage.
It's also a monthly fee.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. That's not part of the ad campaign.
There's an asterisk at the bottom and there's a little tiny bit of fun. By the way, you got to pay us forever.
I think Microsoft is going to do this like they do Xbox Live eventually, where you get the first year for free, and then after that, they're like, nah, you need to pay. All your stuff's going away.
So
or you've used 500 gigabytes. You're already 500 gigabytes in the red. You need to pay for more storage, or we're just going to start deleting. It's like, you're holding me ransom.
So you run out, buy another budget laptop at Best Buy, use a new identity, get another free year.
I literally know somebody that there was a deal where it was like you could get the crappiest Windows thing with it was 3 years free of home and student Microsoft Office. But the laptop was like one of those 150 garbage laptops. They never even took it out of the box. They just wanted the 3 years of Office for free because it was only $150 or something like that.
What a world. Disposable laptops to get licenses.
Yeah, that sounds environmentally friendly, doesn't it? That's why I mentioned it.
Well, you know what might have been environmentally friendly? I don't actually believe that, but they claimed it was, and maybe it was too environmentally friendly, or maybe it was too cheap.
GM is killing off the Chevy Bolt and the Bolt EUV. Has nothing to do with the constant recalls.
They have replacements coming from several of the GMC brands, the Cadillac Lyric and the Ultimum, new kinds of batteries, and the Hummer. All those way more expensive.
Yeah. There's a guy I follow on YouTube who I think he has the Chevy Bolt and he loves it. But it was also like way cheaper than any of those other offerings.
Good luck getting parts for it in 5 years.
I don't remember if it was this. No, it wasn't this story. There was a story like that showed up earlier last week or the week before. And I was trying to do a deep dive on lithium. So engagement challenge audience. Lithium prices haven't really changed, but it hasn't gotten insanely way more expensive when you take into account inflation. And if you look at battery technology, we're able to make better batteries with less lithium, but it's still not a breakthrough. Not, to your point, it's like, we're going to be able to run this on, we've got a water battery now. Nothing like that has happened. But I honestly can't tell if lithium batteries are getting dramatically worse, about the same, or better per unit dollar. Because there's a lot of conflicting data each different way. It's like lithium, I would expect lithium to be getting more scarce and the price to be going up and the cost of lithium batteries to be increasing faster than it is. But we've learned how to make lithium batteries from lower quality lithium that are almost as good, so maybe it's okay. And some of that is maybe driving the cost in some of the other parts of this here, but maybe it's okay.
I saw that, I think Chile nationalized all the lithium overnight.
Yeah.
That's got to have an impact, right?
Well, it's because it's worth a lot. And the deal that they made, like the 10-year deal that they made like 6 years ago was, pennies on the dollar for the lithium. So it's like, let's nationalize that, which is probably smart.
Now, it doesn't seem like smart glasses have caught on. AR, VR, certainly nobody's running around wearing one of those. But maybe this is a solution that will let you have some similar functionality without looking like an idiot.
Humane previews AI-powered wearable.
So it's all based on a projector. Look at that.
Okay.
You interact with it with a series of like gestures and voice. So you're definitely going to look like an idiot when you're in the grocery store, gyrating and trying to communicate with your people.
You're trying to get through your grocery list, but you're just looking through your meme folder.
You're not going to look any worse than somebody with ear pods that's having a conversation.
You're standing in the mirror of the bathroom, screaming and waving your hands.
Please, I just did my grocery list.
And here's a product that is a terrible idea for just so many reasons. But here is, if you're thinking, hey, maybe this is good, maybe I should get this, here's what I encourage you to do. Inevitably, someone will say, police should use these. Listen to what the police unions say about that, because they're going to tell you the reasons, the real reasons this is dumb.
The Reuters headline is Smart Gun operating on facial recognition goes on sale in the U.S. And there's a video and there's an article about that. You should go watch that. But you should also go watch the other stuff.
So it's got a fingerprint sensor, and that fingerprint sensor works in concert with a face scanning sensor. So there's a camera in this gun. There's a battery in this gun. Every time you let go of it, you have to unlock it again. So let's say that maybe someone knocks you down and your gun falls in the mud and the sensor gets covered up or the camera gets covered up. You're going to die.
I'm just thinking, how many problems have we had with phone facial recognition where like a kid gets hold of it and they use some sort of filter or find some way around it? Like,
I have a flagship phone and the fingerprint sensor is garbage.
I have a 5-year-old phone. Now, maybe they've made some advancements, but if my finger is slightly wet, it's like I have no idea who you are.
yeah.
Go away.
And here's an interesting one. We've had some real, just overwhelming changes in our incarceration system lately. They talk about, in this case, they made a rule that was like, oh, if you murdered a family, but you were a juvenile when that happened, you were sentenced to life, then it doesn't count anymore. We're letting all those people go. But some of them have been in jail or prison for, decades and decades. They don't know anything about the current world. How do we acclimate them to that?
Inmates are using VR to learn real world skills.
This just reminds me of the story of like was it a Russian cow farm where they had the VR headsets on the cows?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's dark.
So the person that they were showcasing here, he was learning to do a self-checkout in VR because he's never known a world where self-checkout was a thing. And he was like, I don't like computers. I don't want to use computers, but they tell me I have to.
Yeah.
What a culture shock, right? So not only that, but they're also teaching them like meditation and mindfulness, I guess, so they can be less miserable.
Can you do that in person and not in VR?
That takes too much effort.
Yes, we don't have the budget for that. Also, somebody might get stabbed.
Yes.
I mean, these are killers. And, Amazon, they had a little bit of bad news about their cloud storage. But Google, on the other hand,
Google's cloud business turns profitable for the first time on record. Well, everybody else had a whole bunch of hardware and it was hard to get. But Google's got their hardware and it was pretty fast. So, of course.
it's not super profitable. But up until now, it had been zero and negative profitable.
I like the picture they picked for this article.
so happy.
Look at, he looks thrilled. He's surprised.
Guys, can you believe it?
I certainly can't.
It definitely has nothing to do with macroeconomic conditions and the general unavailability of cloud compute. Definitely not.
Now, this story came out on April 24th, so this was prior to the bombshell from the UK. I wonder if they'll stick with this now. Because, the threat was, hey, stop being anti-competitive or we're not going to give you Activision. Now they're not getting Activision.
Microsoft will reportedly unbundle Teams from Office to avoid antitrust concerns.
Can we just unbundle Teams?
I mean, it's kind of already unbundled because there's the Teams and then there's the business Teams, and it's just a nightmare if you have to use both.
Yeah, well, maybe they just cancel this altogether. And this is great news. I love this because you're not going to update with a bunch of trash. Now you're just going to give me security updates. Can we just have that forever, please?
Microsoft is done with major Windows 10 updates, and they're going to end support altogether in 2025.
One of the top comments on this article was 2025 year of the Linux desktop.
That also means that they're not going to really test things. So when an update comes, it's probably got like a 10% chance of breaking something.
We've been talking, obviously, about the never-ending court battles. They just keep coming. I remember when we got the big headline, it was like, oh, it's finally over.
It's never over.
The winner has been chosen. No, it's never over.
Apple wins its appeals court ruling against Epic Games. The panel upheld a ruling that Apple wasn't violating antitrust laws with its App Store policies. This is Fortnite, Tim Sweeney. This is that thing. But this is incredible. This ruling is incredible. It says that, yeah, Apple behaves anti-competitively, but they're probably not violating antitrust laws.
And the App Store in particular.
Yeah, I found that odd.
The one thing that they did have in the ruling, or they did say in the ruling, was that Apple is prohibited from restricting app developers telling their users they can go pay somewhere else. So Fortnite in the App Store for free could be a thing that says, hey, don't pay on Apple. Click here to pay on the website. Apple cannot interfere with that.
But we also got the EU rulings, which means we're probably going to get sideloading.
Yeah.
So does this even matter at this point?
It is a very, very weak victory for Apple. But it is a victory for Apple. And it's a very disappointing victory for Apple because it's so stupid.
And you know what else is stupid? Alienating your user base. But they are going to keep doing it over at Netflix.
Netflix reportedly lost 1 million users in Spain over password crackdown. But did they gain any new subscribers?
Sadly, after the fact, the numbers actually went up. Everyone came crawling back. Yeah.
That's amazing to me. Do we just have a whole generation who don't know how to do the P word?
Way to go, Spain. You had the opportunity to put a stop to that, and you failed. I hope you enjoy your streaming.
Build your own Netflix before they make that a capital offense.
Just start collecting physical media again, because that's the way we're going.
I mean, the guy in Bulgaria literally was saying that people should be executed if they are violating copyright on a large scale. What?
That's a bit of an escalation.
Yeah.
What are you in for?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I stole episodes of Star Trek.
He was making it equivalent to those kinds of things. It's just like, I don't think it's that, but okay.
You know, speaking of Star Trek, I was like, yeah, maybe I'll play some Next Generation in the background, see what Wendell's talking about. I mean, I watched them as a kid, but they've gone crazy with DMCA on those. I guess it's because of those new collections coming out.
Yeah.
I found them. And Amazon has a bit of a history of messing with their third-party sellers. And in particular, they don't like it if you're selling your product anywhere else in the world cheaper than Amazon. And they might have strong-armed some people.
Amazon's vow to stop squeezing sellers was fake, California says. So when it was pointed out that that was anti-competitive and a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act and a whole bunch of other things, Amazon said, oh, whoops, we didn't realize. Our bad. But they're still doing it.
They really didn't even do much to paper over it.
Yeah.
They just kind of kept doing it. And they've got several sellers who have pointed out, and you know, they've actually got some internal emails. And my favorite one was like, hey, send them this and explain this to them. Maybe they'll get the hint. Smiley emote.
That's not very professional in professional correspondence.
When you give a smiley emote as you're destroying a small business, that's a special kind of evil.
Is that business going to be able to sue Amazon for millions upon millions of dollars for interfering in their business? Because they should.
If they have millions and millions of dollars to pay into it and 30 years to wait, I mean, we see how that goes, right? And we have talked about this in the past, but the whispering in modern television shows. Modern actors seem to think that whispering is a replacement for acting. Just like get really quiet when you're going to get dramatic.
We should do that when we do skits. We should start talking really
People
quiet.
already complain about the audio so much. And it's such a problem that Amazon has figured out a way to deal with it.
Amazon introduces a new feature to make dialogue in its TV shows intelligible. It's AI. That's all. It's just going to boost the audio for vocal tones.
Also, we talked about this before we started recording. Some of you are only getting the center channel.
Yeah, you don't want that.
It's your setup. You need better setup. Look into that.
Well, we're talking about too, there should be more of a standard, like how there's web standards and how that really improved the web over time. But
instead, we have the same patent battlefield that we have everywhere else.
Yeah, you can't win after a while, but
And so Amazon had their it's earnings season, tech earnings season. So we have big announcements from all the companies. We heard from Intel and everybody. Amazon announced, and they crushed it, and everybody was like, "Oh my God!" Their stock went up 10%, and then trading closed. And then Amazon was like, "Oh wait, we forgot to tell you about this other thing."
Amazon stock forfeits its gains after company warns of optimizations, quote unquote, from AWS customers. Yeah, AWS customers are starting to notice, wait a minute, the compute isn't really getting any cheaper as time goes on. That's weird, because doesn't the cost of compute go down over time? And it's like, well, a few things have gotten maybe a little cheaper, but mostly no. And so customers are saying, well, if we just do this, then we need way less infrastructure. Or if we use Cloudflare's R3, then suddenly we don't have to pay CloudFront's egress fees. What?
Isn't AWS like one of the biggest things that they make profits off of at
Yeah,
this point too?
it has been.
Literally, they're a $1 trillion company
because
because
of
of that.
AWS.
Yeah. So,
And it's becoming a commodity.
and it was that's such a big deal. Investors know. They're like, "Hey, everything is great except AWS." And when they heard that,
It's like,
they're like,
"Oh."
"Oh, okay, we're done. We're done." Now here, I've not had you previously heard of Notion.
Yeah, yeah, I'd heard of it.
I've
This
not
has
looked
got to
at
be a
it.
paid article. It's
Oh,
gotta be.
absolutely.
It definitely
Yeah.
seems like MIT Technology Review might have taken some money here. But the idea of putting your whole world out there and planning it like this is like, what kind of human being are you? You need to not do this.
MIT Technology Review's headline is "Meet the people who use Notion to plan their whole lives." This is just an advertorial for Notion, but it talks about how you need to plan your downtime to get maximum enjoyment out of your downtime.
One of the craziest like little snippets in this article to me was someone talking about how like they would catalog television shows they watched and then write their thoughts down about each one and give it a rating. And I was like,
Who's the audience for that?
yeah, who?
Me
I'm
in
someone
10
who
years?
wrote. I
God, I was
did
an idiot.
I did a 45-minute video about the advertising for Rings of Power, and even I am not that crazy.
Yeah, but you have an audience for that. They don't.
Yeah, like I never watch a piece of media and then I'm like, I really need to like sit and categorize this just for myself.
Now, sometimes I will, if I watch a really impressive interrogation video and I'm like, I got to talk about this, I'll make a note in a Google Doc to talk about it on the Twitch chat.
But well, again, there's someone
an
to
audience,
talk to
yeah.
about. Like, why would you just keep that note for yourself? That's so weird.
Well, I keep notes and things like that for stuff that I'll need later, because it's like, this is the warranty for this, or this is where I bought that, or this is whatever. And so like I'll organize bills and things into, a document management system, but that's just a chore. And I don't write prose. I put keywords in so that it'll come up in a search later.
But one thing that I am absolutely positive that you do not do is schedule your time like that.
No.
No, yeah. Well, yeah, that's like leisure time, downtime. Scheduling your downtime like that is strange to me. It's okay to have unstructured play.
If I could schedule downtime and have it actually stick, that would be amazing. But there's a litter box that needs to be changed, or there's something that's on fire, or a toilet that's overflowing, something I got to go deal with.
Or, it's like I took a nap and just time traveled for 10 hours. I fast traveled.
That's been
for
a
10
real
hours.
problem the last little bit.
It's spring napping season.
Maybe what if
Let it be. It's
just,
good.
Here's what you do: get Notion and then just put all the time in nap time.
That's gonna
around the
lead me
clock.
straight into heart attack territory, because it's like, I missed my nap time again. Ah!
Notion's constantly buzzing you. Hey, you need to schedule this.
Well, the EU has created some rules about online services, and one of those rules is that you have to tell them how many people are using your online services. The big tech companies did not like this. They fought against it, but it happened, and now Apple has to do it.
European DSA recipients of services report. Here's the disclosure:
101 million on iOS.
23 million on the iPad OS, 6 million on Mac OS. Wow, Mac's dying.
Oh, the Apple TV is not popular over there. Huh?
Watch OS, Apple Books, 1 million. Podcasts and paid subscriptions under 1 million. That's pretty, 23 million in the App Store, 1 million in podcasts. Not going to get rich on doing a podcast.
Unless you're us. Float plane and Patreon.
That's definitely why all those people give us money on it. And Mark Zuckerberg, he's doubling down on the metaverse, but he is pivoting somewhat to AI.
Mark Zuckerberg says Meta wants to introduce AI agents to billions of people. And they did just that in Snapchat.
I hope that's next. It's probably not.
Oh, no, I think
No.
that's in the
Oh.
AI section. I don't think it's in social.
Well,
Yeah, this is
we
the
might have
social
talked about that in nonsense.
Or
The
maybe
people,
it wasn't social. I don't
people
remember.
in Snapchat, they wanted no part of it.
Yeah.
But Meta does recognize their greatest competitor, right? Which is TikTok, because TikTok is just destroying them in the user count. But everybody hates TikTok at this point, so they're definitely getting on that bandwagon.
Meta's Clegg invokes the anti-China rhetoric against TikTok. True patriots use Facebook.
The spy you know and trust.
Now, he does bring up an interesting argument that you can't really debate here, is that China does not allow Facebook, whereas the U.S. allows TikTok. So it's a little bit unfair there. Although you could
Land of the
argue,
free.
yeah, like freedom requires us to allow our people to make that mistake if they want to.
I don't know.
And we have seen so many attacks against encrypted communication and all kinds of online communication because they will not give up information.
Brazil judge orders temporary suspension of Telegram. Nah, Telegram is really not all that good. It's just Telegram won't play ball with Brazil. So they're like, okay, out.
Brazil is having some issues with crime. They want Telegram to unearth some things. Telegram says, we're not interested in doing that. So now they're going to get a daily fine. I don't remember how much it was, but it's a lot.
And to be sure, Telegram could do this. It's not like Signal. Signal is far superior to Telegram.
I can't remember how much it was. It's hundreds of thousands of whatever their local currency is today. I don't know what that translates into. This has to do with school shootings, and they apparently have youth gangs that are a bit of a problem, and they communicate primarily through Telegram. The government would like to see all of those communications. Telegram says no.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah, here it is. And yeah, the AI. Everybody has to have an AI, right? But some of them are less welcome than others.
Snapchat sees a spike in one-star reviews as users pan the My AI feature, calling for its removal.
Nobody wants this.
Here's the proof that they know that this is trash. You can remove the AI thing. Like it's sticky at the top and it takes up a bunch of your screen. You can remove it with a paid subscription. Pay me to remove my software from your phone. What a business model.
You'll like the metaverse. If you try the metaverse, we can remove the AI assistant.
And this makes me feel good about people. I rarely feel that, but this it's heartening to know that some people are recognizing these horrible young people and their social media strategies. We must push back against it. We must alienate them, treat them as if they are not part of our culture, because they are not.
A TikToker was confused and ended up in tears when strangers refused her offer to pay for their groceries.
With the camera in their face.
When
to be
strangers
clear.
refuse to be part of her content creation.
Right.
That's the proper headline. They know what it is. It's not anything altruistic. It's just, I need clicks. I want to use you.
Look how nice. Well, and some people in this article pointed out that she was doing this in a really wealthy neighborhood in London.
Yeah.
And they're like, I mean, who's going to want that if you're already wealthy?
Yeah, if this is somewhere that's upscale, like a Wegmans, no one is going to be on board. If she did this at like a Walmart, that would have been like, okay.
All right.
If she would do this in an Eastern Kentucky Walmart, not only would they take her money, but they'd follow her out to her car and stab her and take everything else that she's got.
They need that catalytic converter.
Yeah, exactly. And Twitter, we all know they're doing the blue tick thing, and a lot of celebrities are upset because their ticks went away. I think they eventually came back. But the ad campaign to get you to pay for your blue tick may have taken some shortcuts.
Twitter appears to have given blue tick verifications to dead users, including Kobe Bryant, Chadwick Boseman, and Chester Bennington. Oops.
People who definitely didn't pay for it.
Turns out there's a law against using dead people in an advertising campaign. So if someone can prove that this is an advertising campaign, it certainly feels like that, right?
It does, yeah.
They would definitely be in violation of advertising laws.
So there's the gold check mark, which I think is like this person's notable, maybe. Or no, that's enterprise.
Gold
And then-
check mark is $1,000 a month.
Yeah, and then the blue is just like this person paid.
Now, if you pay for the gold check mark, your whole corporation, like all of your different businesses, get it. And they're not very good at looking at the account details to confirm who's actually part of that network.
Twitter gives fake Disney account verified status.
Oops.
Oops.
Apparently, it was tweeting out some pretty vile things, from what I understand too. I didn't check the account, but
The quote was, "This isn't actually real, right? Someone pinch me or something."
that's from the creator of the account.
They knew what the content on their account was.
Yeah.
Somebody suggested they make it to where Musk would accept payment from other people for verified, because that would it would generate a lot of money, but a lot of chaos would also ensue.
That would be fun.
You know who was swept up in all this? That's very sad. There's a guy that runs a bunch of bots, including Riker Googling, and they've shut all that down.
I don't know that we need bots on Twitter.
The Riker Googling bot was really funny.
But what about liminal spaces bot?
There was Riker Googling and Picard management tips and that kind of thing. And they didn't tweet out a lot, but it was pretty funny.
I guess I'm not a big Twitter user. All right, well.
Oh, that was it. Wow. I thought we had another story about the Snapchat thing. Maybe we didn't.
Maybe later.
What was it about?
It was so it was the same Snapchat AI. So I had a friend who actually tested this. You could ask it for your location. It's like, oh, I don't track that. I don't know what your location is. But then you ask, where's the nearest McDonald's? And it would spit out where it was.
That was in that story.
Was it in that story? Okay.
Yeah, and also the advertising part of it could use your location.
Yeah.
Yet another data point. Meta's lying to me.
Anyway, that's it. We'll see you guys Friday. Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the L1 show. May the 5th be with you, even though that's not the holiday.
Never get tired of that joke.
We do it every year.
Nonsense section today. Also AI.
4 or 5 times a year, most years.
And OpenAI, we got to say they're the leader, right?
Yeah.
They got there
absolutely.
first. Everybody's using their product the most.
Being number one. Even if they bought their way to number one.
So popular, in fact, that I believe they're spending something like $250,000 a day to keep that puppy running with all those free demo accounts. So how do you make money on that?
OpenAI previews business plan for ChatGPT and launches new privacy controls.
Privacy controls being important because people figured out that as they're playing with OpenAI's ChatGPT, it's learning from them. They might not like that. You might not like the dark secrets that you discuss with your AI being then factored into the AI from then on.
What do you think this growth is? I was like, this other user's asking me about his growth. It's really funny. Do you want to see it? It's like,
Oh, it's my AI. It's made for me.
So they got the $20 a month one, and then they had their API pricing, which was actually pretty reasonable. And now there will be even more pricing for corporate users and big users, stuff like that.
well, it's an AI dungeon with a good Dungeons and Dragons AI as the dungeon master is a lot of fun.
One thing that might throw a bit of a wrench into those plans, though, is the open source AIs, which these things are very expensive. If you can put together some hardware to make your own, probably makes sense, right? And it seems like more and more we're getting the data sets to get there.
Stability AI launches a Stable LM, an open source ChatGPT alternative. The 3B and 7B models are available on GitHub under a Creative Commons 4.0 license. There's also a 12 billion parameter model on Hugging Face that I wrote a guide to get up and running via Docker. It's on the Level1 forums, and people are using the crap out of it.
And
It's surprising.
25 billion coming soon from these guys.
Well, the 25 billion one is based on metas, and there's some licensing disputes, and so that's why they didn't post it yet.
Well, find a download link for it.
Yeah, if you DIY Meta's LLM, you can use it with this, which is okay. It's probably about as good as ChatGPT 3.5, but honestly, the 12 billion parameter model is very impressive. If you ask it about literally anything on Wikipedia, it's very good.
But further training is needed, and that will be the case for the rest of our existence. And the data, the whole thing about sharing data, it used to be like, oh, let's share the user data for advertising. Now it's going to be, let's share the user data for training the AI. Everybody is shutting down. We got Reddit, Imager, there was one more, right? The big names. But you can add Stack Overflow to the list.
Stack Overflow is willing to entertain selling access to its data for training. Can't get the headline.
That's good. They're going to charge for the API access. Yeah. So right now, you could crawl it for free. No longer.
Womp womp.
There's a lot of bad. I wonder if they'll differentiate between like the downvoted answers and the upvoted answers, because there's a lot of bad information on Stack Overflow.
There is, yeah.
And here is a question. Would an AI scraping bot count as a robot? If you have an IQ in the double digits, you would say yes. Obviously it is. And so websites already have a header that says, hey, robots aren't allowed here. Don't go here if you're a robot. This guy created a program and he was like, that doesn't apply to me.
An AI scraping tool is overwhelming websites with traffic, which is ignoring robots.txt and other robots directives to say robots not welcome. You can opt out, but I mean, come on.
This guy's being a jerk.
Yeah.
He's doing it on purpose.
He's created his own directive and he's like, oh, you just have to put this in there and then I won't crawl. And they're like, bro, we've never heard of you.
Right, and then it becomes a game then at that point of different creators doing that same thing. Well, if you put in my particular thing.
We never heard of you until you were literally breaking our windows out trying to get in the shop.
Yeah, it's DDoS at that point, right?
Yeah.
It is, yeah. He mentioned one of the people they interviewed in this article said that he had to get like special protections and like up some stuff because it was causing so many problems.
That guy is having this argument on his GitHub page and he sounds like a real piece of work.
Yeah. That's what the internet's going to be, though. It's going to be by bots for bots.
Pretty soon he's going to write a bot to argue with the real people, and then those people
Yeah.
will write a bot to argue with his bot.
And then the bots will destroy us all. And a lot of people have made this argument. They're like, we need to be really careful about AI. We have to step back because we don't know what it's going. Meanwhile, Peter Thiel is sitting here saying, I know, let's just let it burn.
Palantir demos AI to fight wars, but says it will be totally ethical. Don't worry about it.
It's a little bit of editorializing, but in this case, I'm okay with it.
If you only read one story, you should go read this in screenshots. I can't believe this is public information. This is crazy.
And yeah, they're okay with it. They're like, oh yeah.
I mean, it seems like it's very effective, but it seems like it's very effective to the point that it's like, this has got to be some kind of propaganda because it just doesn't work this well.
So the crazy thing about this demo is that the human in it, now we always make the rule like, it can't just be a robot making life and death decisions, right? There has to be a human who touches the button and makes the decision. But the human is so removed from this demo.
Yeah.
Because the AI is like, oh, we're getting attacked over here. And the human's like, give me more info. So it scrambles drones. Here's the more info. What should we do? Should we launch this attack? Yeah, okay. All right, we've launched the attack. What do you want to do next? Should we do this? Okay, yeah, go do that too. And then the human is basically just a yes man for the killer AI.
There's an episode of Stargate about this, and they thought they were playing a computer game on the Stargate's, computer core and Stargate Atlantis because it's a big giant spaceship. And it turns out that was actually just a medieval society on some planet somewhere. And so like it was a representation in the computer of what was going on some planet somewhere. And it was like, oh, we should send our army and do this. And it was like, yes, my lord. And it really was.
That's the premise of Ender's Game as well. There's a lot of sci-fi that covers that.
Is literally that. And the problem with all of that is that we know that the AI is not exactly accurate. You know those usefully wrong responses? What happens when you have rockets involved with usefully wrong? It could get really nasty. NVIDIA says they have an answer.
NVIDIA releases a toolkit to make text-generating AI, quote-unquote, safer. It's like we're going to run the generated text through another AI to make sure that the first AI is okay.
But who checks the second AI?
Who watches
It's just AI all the way down.
Oh, we've got an AI watching the watchers, but we need another AI to watch that AI that's watching the watchers.
So, yeah, you can get that and put it on top of your AI if you want.
Or maybe I'll just, disappear into the woods again and just not come out.
Maybe we can use some CHIPS Act money to put a committee together, and Exhibit can be the chair of the committee.
You think Exhibit the rapper?
Yeah.
Oh, because of the pimp your ride thing. That's a little dated.
It's an old reference, but it does check out.
But Chris, you don't think an AI enabled spot won't be able to track you in the forest?
Well, we do have a story about a spot robot that struggled over rubble.
Oh, he'll get better.
But maybe.
And here is, if you are the kind of person who just can't get motivated, why not let an AI punish you into being better?
Apple's next big fitness feature could be an AI-powered coaching service. Apple could personalize your health and fitness regime with AI, or it could just berate you about not doing things the way that my stuff does.
You upload clips of your father speaking, and then it's your father screaming at you to go out and work out. Think how moralizing that would be.
Also, they talk about not just personal health, but also mental health. They want you to start talking to your AI about your feelings so that it can give you feedback about what's going on there.
Again, the plot in a lot of science fiction, because the Peter Thiel type characters like, oh, we can use those people to, assassinate people that we think are bad.
Apple AI, I'm having some dark thoughts. What do you think? Maybe you'd feel better if you had a new iPhone.
Let me help you select some targets. These people need to be eliminated. Would you like to eliminate them? It's like, what? You're encouraging me? It's like, if you're going to have these dark thoughts, we might as well use them productively.
Let's make them productive. Yeah.
Now, you just talked about how that previous story was for sure PR.
Yeah.
It was just a press release. This is a press release.
Generative AI boosts productivity and retention. So that 14%. So if you're an employee and you embrace AI, you're going to be a more productive employee.
This was kind of like in the call center space from what I gathered. And they said it was mostly low-level employees who had just started who got the biggest boost.
So basically the worst people at the call center who didn't know what was going on, the AI could coach them through it.
And this is probably accurate. This probably would help.
Yeah. But not as like when you put all those qualifiers on, 14%, is it that much better? Would the people immediately get back up to speed after being there for a while, and then that gain is just not there anymore?
Yeah, they said the people who were good were actually distracted by it.
Yeah.
Because they were already good at it. But we need to put this in all the fast food locations because there are some low-level employees working there right now.
Yeah. I could go for, a Lowe's AI assistant because they're all like, I fixed a broken screen door. And it's like, how do you get a screen door from Lowe's? And it turns out you buy it. But it was like the threshold. There's already a threshold at the bottom. Do I need to? And they're like, oh, the door doesn't come with a threshold. It's like, okay, that was wrong. That was incorrect. And it's like, oh, you need this in order to mount it to do this. It's like, also wrong.
Well, we're about to find out just how good AI is at personal coaching and education because we're going to get AI tutors immediately. And Bill Gates thinks that they're going to be really good at one particular study.
Bill Gates says AI chatbots will teach kids to read within 18 months. You'll be stunned by how it helps. I get why he thinks this, but...
Yeah, I guess if we have any educators. I'm imagining a scenario where, like, sometimes, like when you see the Balenciaga memes and they say, like, Balenciaga... Imagine an AI trying to teach a kid to read, and it's like, no, it's pronounced this way. And then the kids are saying like AI pronunciations. That'd be interesting.
Oh, if we have the next Spielberg watching, there's your show. There's your premise for your Oscar-winning thing is a kid that was taught entirely by this that speaks only meme.
Or they speak, like just their English is a totally different accent, but it's like a machine accent.
Don't we already have that because of autism and 4chan?
But you could turn it into a movie instead of, Shaka when the walls fell. It's going to be cat can have a little salami.
I don't think that ends well. That would not have a happy ending.
There was a philosopher that wrote about that when language loses meaning like that, and it's all just references that society must collapse. And he had some historical examples.
We did a story a while back too about how like emojis are perceived differently between generations as well. Yeah. It'll probably become weird like that. Yeah.
What was the one that if you used it, they're like, oh, that's a boomer. Yeah, I think it was maybe thumbs up or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, this headline is not what I linked to this story about. They talked about something else. This is actually, these guys had a long interview, but these are guys who were involved in media creation, movie making, TV, stuff like that. And they had an interesting prediction about AI.
Joe Russo and Fortnite's Donald Mustard weigh in on the future of storytelling, gaming, and entertainment.
So the prediction is that the next Avengers type massive blockbuster will be created entirely by AI.
I would not be surprised considering how formulaic those are.
Would it be much different?
Yeah, seriously. I mean,
also these guys are ruining our childhood stuff. Screw these guys.
I think what they were trying to say, okay, well, no, they probably weren't trying to say this, but is this a better version of their take on that in that AI will unlock your own imagination so that you can bring to life what you're imagining? Because I agree, like the reason that the old stuff was so good is because I was able to build such an elaborate thing in my imagination, and being exposed to even more stuff by the AI probably would have made my own imagination that much richer.
But these guys don't do that. They take things that already exist and are good and they ruin them.
Well, yeah, they're describing like the process of writing a script, but instead of thinking organically about like, okay, this character would logically do this, or like maybe I'm thinking about someone I knew in real life who was in a similar situation and how they would react. It's just going to be like, well, the AI said this, so I'm just going to write it this way because that's what the AI said.
And the AI knows what the audience wants.
Right. It's going to be focus group to death, which already happens in Hollywood. So this is just the logical progression if you're working in that space.
Isn't that the top 40 already for music? We got there
We'll
without.
prepare more of it.
I don't listen to the top 40, so I couldn't tell you, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's terrible. Well, remember old school robots? Remember when robots weren't so smart and they were kind of dumb and we were looking forward when they got smarter? Oh, how foolish we were. But those robots are doing better.
Cruise robotaxis now operating 24/7 in San Francisco. Job post hints at a launch in Dallas.
So they got an ad campaign. See San Francisco at any time. Take your life into your own, someone else's hands, a robot's hands.
It was like a dark alley. It's like there's tents everywhere. It's like, see San Francisco anytime.
Drive into the alley and the doors lock.
Oh no.
And we learned about the NYPD robots. Yeah, they're back. Remember when people were like, no, you can't do this. It's evil. And they're like, okay, we won't. And then
They did.
3 months later,
Yeah.
we're doing it again. But they're not the only ones.
$75,000 fire department of New York RoboDog goes to work and then they falls over.
I like that they painted it like a Dalmatian. I did find that funny.
That is great.
There's a video and a Twitter
It's
clip.
a very, I don't know if it's going to make noise.
Yeah,
It's a very small, oh, here we go.
Unfortunately, a parking garage collapsed, and they sent the dog in. They tried to send the dog in, and the dog immediately falls over.
It almost seems like he's making a little hop there at the end. Sometimes my cats do that, when they're like dramatic flop.
Yeah, he was trying to get up, just like a tiny little ramp, and just immediately.
Maybe it's because they painted a sensor.
With the Dalmatian. This is only a 21-second clip. The spot people reached out and they were like, no, these can correct themselves. They cut it off too early. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, because that's not bad PR for them after spending $75K.
Also, the FDNY said that he did find a corpse later on.
Wow.
And
Would have been great if he found a live person.
Good boy, you found a corpse. That's not great. The AI is going to get a taste for corpses.
it's like, oh, you want corpses, do you?
Corpse obsession, like real world.
And here we have the picture of the police spot, but this is not the spot that they did that to. This is another personal research project.
ChatGPT integration brings speech to the Spot robot dog. That's the thing that I wrote the guide for on the forum. You can hook that up to a text-to-speech engine, and it's surprisingly competent. You can talk to it.
Well, this interfaces with Spot specifically because Spot does have some internal storage about like what it should be doing right now, what it did before. You can ask it to replay all of the stuff that it's done back, and it will also shake its head and nod its head.
The demo that we saw last week of it was the domestic assistance robot. It had basic things like that. It's like, can you go clear the table? That's what it was doing in the video. It was like, let me get a box. Clear the table means that I need somewhere to put the crap. And then it goes to the table and it clears the crap. And it did okay with that.
And the Russians have their own robots. This was a little short on details.
Also, most realistic, maybe a little.
There's definitely some uncanny valley
It's
here.
deep in the valley.
It can speak. Meet Alex, the world's most realistic robot that costs $3.68 billion of whatever
I
currency
don't know
that
what.
is.
Yeah, that's not the ruble, right? Why would an N be?
It's got 3 million followers on TikTok and apparently a girlfriend. It's Promobot, which is Russian. They've got a bunch of different silicone for its face.
Kill me.
600 facial expressions.
What's that one? I don't think I've ever seen someone make that expression.
That one is I've become self-aware and I want to die.
I still love I think it was like a dental assistant bot. And it like looks like it's grimacing in pain. Oh.
Definitely getting feelings of Terminator 1.
Yeah, threatening aura. Oh,
He's malicious.
I'm gonna do that at the grocery store later. Just look at people and squint randomly.
That's a robot. They'll try to, the children always try to attack the robots.
Oh yeah.
If you mess around like that, you're going to be swarmed by murderous children. And those children will have a reason to hate the robots because they will be created by them against their will.
The MIT Technology Review has the headline, "The first babies conceived with sperm-injecting robot have been born. Meet the babies Meet the startup's trying to deliver a desktop fertility machine. Not just that, but also you could cherry pick the genetic components that go into your child.
Did you kind of get like a weird vibe in this article where they were like, well, you know, right now it's such a boutique industry to do IVF, but this way we could have thousands and thousands of kids. And I was like,
See, I think this is going to become the norm because, you know, if you have two parents that have a defective gene and they want to have kids, you're going to have to do some cherry picking there to make sure that the kid doesn't end up with both copies of the defective gene.
I don't know. This article had a kind of a weird slant to it, I thought.
Listen, if you're out there and you don't want any part of this new madness, pure blood, no vaccine,
Got it.
none of this business. $10,000 a serving. Some bad news out of Japan. Everybody wants to go back to the moon. Japan was ready to be the first. They were going to land. They landed.
Japan's iSpace says moon lander unexpectedly accelerated and likely crashed.
Crash landed.
So that was a sudden unscheduled disassembly?
Yeah.
It apparently it had trouble with its boosters to decelerate when heading down to the moon.
Too cold or?
I'm not sure yet.
Maybe it was just really excited to get there and just...
Couldn't wait. Had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's like, God,
It's a long
I've
trip.
been holding this in the whole time. And NASA, yeah, they're still making breakthroughs. Maybe not so much in the launching rocket stage. Elon Musk has monopolized that, but they're still doing stuff.
NASA's super alloy, a breakthrough in 3D printing technology. So it turns out that when you've got fine control of all of this, fun things can happen.
It's incredibly strong. Was it like 1,000 times more durable than state-of-the-art 3D printed super alloys, and it can withstand 2,000 degrees of temperature.
So
NASA just out here killing it.
if you want to read a fun ancient book on this, is Drexler's Nanotechnology, which is an old book, but is surprisingly accurate with its predictions. We're getting very close to the molecular manufacturing stage of the book, which leads to this kind of thing.
And Thailand, here's a weird sort of dichotomy here with Thailand, right? Because they are famed for sex tourism. And yet, they don't allow these products.
Thai conservatives vow to legalize toys that are applicable to that in a bid to shake up the election. Pretty sure that term is flagged.
He's already said SEX. So,
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's the Guardian. So
YouTube's
be
probably
okay.
already demonetized it. Well, usually we get demonetized in nonsense.
Well, they talk about how there's a healthy black market already. These things are in the country. Also, there's that whole well, I know we can't even say that, right? Can't even give you the reality because it's all been flagged. You know what else gets flagged? Anything that's negative of this guy. This was the same guy that had the cow Twitter, right? He does not like it when people make fun of him online.
Judge says Nunes not defamed by a story about Iowa dairy farm. I don't even.
So they pointed out that he might have moved his dairy farm for tax purposes. And he might have perhaps employed some illegal immigrants, which is certainly not part of his platform. He got angry about that. Says that it was defaming. The judge ruled against him.
Because
can't be defamation if it's true.
Yeah, I mean, that seemed to be what the judge was saying. Was that your takeaway? It's like the judge was like, this is accurate.
Prove that it's not true. Right. You know who else doesn't like it? When people make fun of him in the media. And he really doesn't like it when giant corporations try to tell him that he can't have what he wants.
DeSantis ramps up power struggle with Disney World.
My money's on Disney.
It's hard to pick a
They're both
winner
there.
in
Let
that
them fight.
Yeah. They could
Listen, if he's busy with this, he can't be doing terrible things.
I think he can multitask.
he's
Yeah,
got
he's
the
pretty
capacity.
terrible.
Yeah. People in government are so good at that.
I saw a picture this week of the mouse, but like holding a gun. And it was like going to war against DeSantis 2024 or 2023 colorized.
Well, here's the thing, right? Do we know DeSantis's location on this night? Could there be a connection? Could this have been sabotage?
Disney suspends phantasmic fire effects at parks worldwide after Disneyland Inferno.
Disney Inferno.
I watched the video of this, yeah.
Here's the dragon fully engulfed in flames. I mean, there was some sort of accelerant in his fire-breathing apparatus, I guess. And
then there was a leak.
once that caught fire, the whole thing just kind of went up.
It took a little bit.
The videos of the people watching it, though, they seem to really enjoy the show.
They thought it was the show until I think the actor started running full tilt, and then they were like, something's not right here.
A couple of workers inside the Dragon had to be treated for smoke inhalation.
Ooh.
But nobody got burned.
That's good.
That's good. He lives on his own little island, Tom Sawyer Island.
Any dragons hatched from that event?
Well, the eggs would be immune to fire, right? So
Right.
no problem with that.
This is just a summer hall 2.0.
And we're going into the animal section, but we have.
Why did you put this in here?
Well, it's important that we know how bad the world is. This is out there, and the craziest part is not only is it out there, but it's being posted to social media. Who do you imagine watching this?
This made it sound like he did it accidentally because he didn't understand the difference between posting social media and recording on the phone.
You really want to understand that before you start recording this.
Man allegedly posts a video of himself engaging in what
Degeneracy
with a dog, and just come on.
All right.
Why?
I bet Nike is not super happy about their logo being on that mugshot.
No. Is that Nike and Amazon?
It does seem like the Amazon, but it's the Amazon frown. Remember, they switched it over. I don't know what that is. That is not the only one. There were 2 other instances of this horrible behavior. Once again, people just keep filming it and putting it online.
No.
Anyway, let's move on. No sads.
Well, this is, I was going to put in cops being stupid. One of my favorite topics.
California drug dealer escapes with 60 pounds of sheriff's meth during failed sting.
Apparently, they didn't factor in to the fact that he might get in his car and run away.
Nobody would just do that.
And they
It's
didn't.
the GTA strategy.
Can we Freedom of Information Act the footage and then set it to the Benny Hill theme?
Could have had a helicopter in the area. Would have solved this problem. Could have blocked traffic at some point. But no. 60 pounds of meth. I wondered how much that would be worth. They claim $210,000.
That doesn't seem like enough.
It's not good stuff.
Do you have to?
Chili pea.
What is one serving of meth and weight? It's got to be in the gram, right?
Probably not
Is
much.
there nutrition facts on the label? I'm not sure. I couldn't possibly have any more. I've already had one serving.
Now with 40% less lead.
I need to get my 5 a day.
Yeah.
And Sudan. Oh boy, some bad stuff is happening in Sudan. There seems to be a bit of a civil war, a power struggle. The problem is there's some things there that are dangerous.
The headlines were things like high risk of biological hazard in Sudan after fighters seize biolab, the World Health Organization says. There's samples there of polio, cholera, measles, more things
Apparently
like
this
that.
is a low security, but I'm like, dang, that's some pretty serious stuff still.
Maybe, recently we've had some issues with these labs. Could we raise security?
PSA, if you're a scientist in one of these labs and it seems like something bad is going to happen, you should go to the lab and hit the destroy samples button. Like you store them in a case that has a destroy samples button, right?
You will be prosecuted by the EcoHealth Alliance if you do that.
I mean, I understand that they have to have labs in places where stuff like this springs up because, like, you need to be able to study it. But ooh,
I'm pretty sure that MIT has a protocol for disposing of nuclear materials should somebody invade by sea because they have their own nuclear accelerator.
The other crazy thing here is like it's such an information vacuum that they don't know which side seized it.
oh,
So we have no idea what's going on there.
Interesting.
And moving on to the entertainment section. Once again, they take the things from our childhood, they destroy them, they twist them, they make them ugly, and they serve it back to us.
Indiana Jones 5 will feature a de-aged Harrison Ford for the first 25 minutes.
and probably for the last part too.
The
Just you won't be able to tell as much.
The technology used old Lucasfilm footage for Ford for accuracy. They're training an AI to do this, so they'll be able to do it with anybody. It's amazing.
You're gonna have
but
to
also,
write that into your contract.
You know, the 12 billion parameter GPT, or no, that wasn't the GPT model. That was another. It was another model that I downloaded. It did a good job generating Danny DeVito like characters.
Oh my God. We had to get that in, didn't
The
we?
top comment on this Friday's news was Wendell's really obsessed with Danny DeVito right now.
So I just watched 1923, which stars Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. And I was thinking, like, they're really putting a lot. I mean, how much longer are these guys going to be able to do this? And Picard?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They're going to be able to do it till time immemorial.
Ugh.
I mean, what better world is it for Disney than to just already have the library of actors that they need, and they don't need to pay new people?
Well, some artists are embracing the new world, and they're saying, yeah, just feed me to the machines as long as you share the money with me.
Grimes tells fans to deepfake her music and will split 50% of the royalties with whoever comes up with whatever. It says with AI, but with whoever comes up with whatever.
Also, bad news this week. If you do like her music, she's not releasing book one, and she's been released from Columbia.
Right. That was part of her argument here, is that she's no longer with a record company who could argue about this and go after the copyright. So she says she's free agent. She's ready to collaborate with the machines.
I bet there's ultimately...
But she wants to be paid. So yes, my voice is free, but if it's successful, whatever threshold that is, I still get paid.
I think that you could do it not with AI. Like if you just wanted to take whatever and use it and mix it together, if you came up with something profitable and gave her half the money, that's not a terrible deal.
What if it wasn't like? What if I said, "Oh, it wasn't that successful"?
Well, I mean, you'll have
do you have to pay her 50% then?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably 50% regardless of how. It's probably 50% of gross.
She said if it was successful.
I mean,
what's the threshold for success?
Rap producers have been doing that for 30 years, not paying anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think she thought that out at all.
And
Not surprising.
One of those rappers amazingly pivoted to a new career. And he was successful, but he probably should have paid a little more attention to his business partners.
Fugees? Is that how you say that?
Yeah, Fugees, like refugees.
Fugees rapper Prass Mitchell, convicted in foreign influence case.
Fuggies.
So it turns out he was a Chinese spy, according to the article, according to the charges leveled against him.
There was another Asian country, right? Was it Malaysia?
Or Malaysian spy, I'm sorry.
But also China. China was involved. So I don't think he vetted these guys at all. And they were absolutely using him. And maybe he knew, but it seems like he was a useful idiot. They've all been charged, but he's the only one in the United States. So he's the only one who will stand trial. Or I guess the trial's over, right? Yeah, he's convicted. It's a tough time for him. They spent $200 million trying to get Barack Obama reelected. And they funneled it through him.
Wow.
It worked. Now, we talk a lot about the bees, and we need to save the bees. I agree with that. But have we been assigning too much value to the bees? Do we need to look more at other insects to be our saviors?
Moths are more efficient pollinators than bees, shows new research.
I imagine that depends on what plant, often.
Bramble. Bramble and moths is like pollen god mode. And they work at night, so they can work at the same rate. Like you can have bees and moths, and they don't interfere with one another.
It's ideal.
But it turns out the moths, they're just like pollen machines.
We have a lot of butterflies and moths in our yard.
You should get more.
I'm working on it. I'm trying to plant more flowers.
I've got a lot of carpenter bees, and I'm worried about where they're living.
They're probably in your porch.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're big pollinators.
They're cute. They're real bumbly, but
I found a thing online. It was like, turn old wood into just move it out there and then get almond water and put it in their holes, and they'll naturally migrate to the other thing. And it's like, okay, I guess I'll give that a try.
okay.
Well, I don't want to murder them, but I mean, I also don't want them to live in my house on the inside.
You can get those like wood jar things like at flea markets that work pretty well. My mom has one on her porch. I mean, they'll come back, but
Well, if you have a lot of parrots living at your house, that's probably gonna be bad for the bees, right? Will parrots eat bees? I bet they will.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's part of their normal diet, but maybe.
Well, you know what else isn't part of their normal lifestyle? iPads.
Parrots who learn to video call their feathered friends feel less lonely, a study finds.
One of the interesting things about this is that they were like, oh, the parrots are reacting to the other parrots, but a lot of times they were attached to the other human on the other side. Like they were excited to call a human.
Seems like they would scratch the screen really easy.
Yeah.
Ethical implications. Parrots are really smart, and maybe we shouldn't keep them as pets, especially because they have really long lifespans.
Look, I've got pets in my home. They're trapped
Same.
there. But I have two of them because I was very careful. I was like, I don't want one cat. Like if I'm like right now, I'm not there. What's one cat going to be doing? There's two of them.
Sleeping.
Now they're just tearing the place apart. Jumping up on the counters.
They're encouraging each other to break the rules.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're plotting together.
Not too long ago, they got into the cat food cabinet somehow.
I bet that was a good day for them.
I don't remember if I left it open or if they found a way.
I would feel better if mom's cat was rebellious enough to dig into the cat food bag, but it's
an old cat.
It's just waiting for the end at this point.
Oh.
And birds are, they're great and everything, I guess, but there's a lot of them. There's not a lot of natural predators to thin the numbers in places where we are artificially feeding them, and they become a real pest.
A zoo in England is hiring a quote-unquote seagull deterrent worker who will have to wear a giant bird costume to scare away the gulls.
There was
where was this? Like what part of England?
I saw this. They ran another story. Do you think this is AI generated?
Look at the shadows. It has to be. There's no shadow under the eagle thing, but there are under the birds.
Wow.
Well, the shadow would be here, right? So it could
maybe
be
it's
there.
covered. Yeah.
I don't know.
It looks a little. It's just uncanny.
It's also weird. Didn't they say that this was going to be a pigeon costume?
I used to watch a lot of the Yogscast, and during the summer, like apparently the seagulls would get super aggressive because they would pick up on their mics, even though they were inside. You'd just hear.
I love. What's that? It's like a Swedish food where it's rancid fish.
Lutefisk.
I don't think that's it. I think we were corrected last time you said that.
Okay.
But yeah, and the way you eat it is you like lift it up and
The birds.
There's so many videos of birds grabbing that because it's like, oh, get a social media video of me eating this horrible food, and then they put it up and the birds just like yank.
Yoink.
The birds have probably learned when it's like, oh, they got the camera out. Get ready. Start your approach.
It's a great way to lose an eye.
And courtrooms can be, there's a lot of anxiety, especially if you're a witness, something terrible's happened to you. Now you got to confront the horrible person. You got to explain what they did while they're looking at you. Maybe you need a friend, but maybe it's too friendly.
Maine lawmakers decide courthouse dogs are too cute for criminal court.
That is a good looking dog.
That's in such an adorable way.
It biases the jury to be in favor of the court, not the.
I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Your average moron juror, and they're like, I don't know who to believe, but God, that puppy's cute.
I am that moron juror. I'd be like, oh, look at the dog. The dog likes this person better, so they must be innocent.
The dog doesn't care. The dog's just like, this is my job. Love me. And a controversial one. This might have been too hot for YouTube, but it's just destroying the language. Weren't you just talking about?
Yeah.
Like when we break the language down so that words don't have meanings anymore, it collapses the society.
Fifth grade teachers replacing male and female with people who produce sperm or eggs in Vermont. And
Couldn't you just say biological? Like, wouldn't that be quicker?
What if there's one kid from an egg farm? He's like, oh,
We produce eggs.
I produce eggs. What am I? What is my identity?
That's so, yeah, it's just, well, for me, my objection is mainly just that it's too long.
It would have to be PPS and PPE, right? PPs. We've circled back. We've circled back. The PPs.
Oh, no.
Oh.
We don't just, why? Why?
To sell lifetime health care.
Oh, I thought you meant textbooks, but lifetime healthcare is also it.
We just gotta go, just send me back to the woods.
Time for new textbooks.
You're not allowed to go back to the woods for one calendar year, Kristen.
Everything was so simple. It was just about making miles every day and eating. I was so hungry.
That's why we play survival video games, right?
Yeah.
We crave
That simplicity.
to go back to the basics, but we never will. We're in this hell forever.
Anyway, on that happy note, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.